This is RPMMORadio.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
A podcast all about role-playing and MMORPGs.
I like what you got. Good job!
With your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, Sid, Jazz, Strafae, and Kishmas.
Everybody off. We need to go on a quick adventure.
Hello, role players. Welcome to RPMMORadio. This is our 49th episode. Just one. Count them, only one episode away from the big 5-0 just being a little over the hill. That's right. Oh, you're getting so old. Wow. So this will be the psychiatric help you need. Not that we would know anything about that. I, of course, am your host, Ashen Phoenix, and with me, as always, is Jazz, Sib, and Strafae, and our call screener, Rahanar or Yunfei, depending on whichever one happens to be around.
What's going on, guys?
Calls in. How's it going?
Good.
Kishmas, of course, not here right now because he is, frankly, he's busy with a halfling prostitute. Yeah, I know. It's shameful. Shameful?
The scandal, bro. The scandal.
I know. I don't know how that's going to affect his political career, but, you know, these days, probably not at all.
I doubt it will.
Right. I doubt it at all either. We are, of course, a call-in show. You two can tell us your opinion, whatever it is you think. We appreciate hearing from anybody if you guys call in. Just go to our Discord. You can go there by rpmmradio.com/Discord. If you join there, put yourself in the caller waiting room where Rahanar or Yunfei will make sure that you're, one, a human being, and two, that your mic works, and see what you have to say. And then we'll bring you on. And we really do like hearing from you guys. Today's going to be a fun episode. We've got a lot of information and things like that. We've got at least I'd say we have a solid half hour to cram into this 2-hour show. I think we can do it, guys. I think we can buckle down. I think we can get this done.
No.
Yeah. See, that's the kind of enthusiasm I expect from you. That's That's right. So, I want to give a special thanks to all of our Patreon donors, including those at the raid boss level, that guy Lazza, and a Truth Bob. If you want to be hip, cool, and good-looking like they are, go to patreon.com/RPMMORadio. We actually do have stuff that actually really is coming down the pipe because we've got some art stuff that's done, and now we're just going to have to decide what we want to do with it and put it on stickers, which, for those of you that have already been donating, you're going to get one. Because we appreciate you. For everybody else, once you donate at a certain level, you'll have one sent out to you if you want it. So we just have to kind of work on that.
There will be buy options, too.
And there will be buy options as well, which, you know. But everybody that signs up for it will eventually get one of those once we have them in hand and can ship them out ourselves.
Yeah.
So, for those listening on the thing, the podcast, you can always listen to us every Saturday 7 over at twitch.tv/RPMMORadio. The rest of you, if you're listening live, Apple Podcast, Android Podcast app, Spotify, Podbean, anywhere you can get a podcast, you can listen to us. We appreciate that. We appreciate the likes, the subscribes. If you're watching live right now over at Twitch, go ahead, give us a like, follow. Subscribe if you've got something even like Amazon Prime, if you feel like, you're so inclined. But you are welcome to follow us just as Commander Root did not too long before the show started. Excuse me, I got
You okay over there?
snuffleupaguses in my nose. I don't know what's going on. It's weird. So
I can come over there and punch you.
She beats me because she loves me.
I do.
That's the rumor anyway, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm the teenager, her Ike. There we go.
What's love got to do?
We're married, not a whole lot. It's a loveless marriage that was done purely for political reasons.
Keep on rolling.
Wow.
Sorry.
Yeah, you should be. Especially with that singing voice. That was awful. It's just terrible.
You're awful.
I'll be honest, I would rather right now listen to somebody hit a bag full of kittens with a sledgehammer than listen to one more note of your voice.
Are you kidding me? You're awful. You're terrible.
You're awful.
Somewhere in
You're the
Britain,
worst.
they're doing a riot about cultural appropriation for our show, so, you know.
That's right. We're culture appropriating the white man. He is ours now. Wait, is that how that works? I don't think.
I got nothing anymore, man. Everything's madness.
Well, we are American, and their accents are funny. Why is it that our accent sounds... You have to... Dang it, we need TK Dean to call in again and tell us what people think our accent sounds like, because I've always been curious. Because, like, for someone from Ireland, right, they can tell when someone's from England, so what does the American accent sound like to them?
Depends which
Like a
region.
hillbilly.
Right.
You're on the East Coast.
I knew a Russian foreign exchange student in high school, and she was teaching me Russian words, and she was like, your accent is so cute. I'm like, when I was speaking Russian, you have an American accent. It's adorable. I'm like, huh. I never
our
really
teacher
thought
told
of
us
that. Yeah,
when
yeah.
I took Russian, she was like, your American accent when you speak our language is just so freaking adorable. I want to pinch your cheeks. You're
It's not right. And it's not something you think of probably in your own culture. I bet you that's probably almost except for English people who have it brought up constantly. You know,
So
but in
Roleplay.
their own country, it's got to be crazy. Shut up, I'm talking. And I was actually I was running out of things to
This
talk
is why
about.
I got the office way in the back closet.
This is yeah. Actually, after the show, when you have a talk, bring your box. You're gonna.
Hey, frack your talk.
I found
I'll show you where to stick
I found
that
a
box, bro.
sub basement on the.
basement.
They say
Wait.
they got 90% of the black mold installed.
That's the sub basement with Sith holocrons, right?
That's right. Basically, at that point,
All
you're
right,
at like.
I'll see you after the show.
We had to kick Dr. Evil out so that you could have the office.
The sub basement.
So, all right. Well, with that, but no, like seriously, guys, we appreciate you calling in. Follow us. We do that. Another thing, like I said, we got our big 50th episode coming up next week. Which, I mean, anybody else surprised? Like, that we made it that far?
Oh, I'm shocked.
Show of
I
hands.
am too.
Pretty excellent.
You do realize at this point where we are at right now, we're already one episode. Thank you, Wakichota. You're right. He is up, Strafae.
I told you he was awake and scratching around, man.
Yeah, he's got that Wakichota bits itch. Wow, that sounded way worse out loud than I should probably think before I speak. But no, where we're at right now with episode 49, we're already an episode two episodes more than where we were in the entire first year of the show.
Yeah.
We ended in December at episode 24, and we're now at 49. So in this half a year, who would have thought doing more than an episode a week, or
dare say
every
that's
2
impressive,
weeks,
old bean.
it would be doubled. Yeah.
Yeah, imagine that.
Right. But still, it's funny to think of. Took us a whole year to get to where we're at right now. So.
Well, we were
Every
taking
other
our
week.
time
So,
and
yeah.
being patient, and good things come to those that wait. So we're glad you waited with us.
Well, I'm just surprised anybody stayed after that first 2 months. To be frank,
That first
Oh,
month
those
was
were bad.
rough.
it was really bad. And then the new year when we got that Strafae and that worst of all that Kishmis guy, I didn't
Yeah,
think
you know.
I thought the whole show was over at that point.
Look at this way. We're in season 3. We can go back and troll ourselves from
That's
season 1.
right. I was trying to think of the equivalent. This is like when what's that show? I Dream a Genie had to replace the husband. It's like that. It's or Roseanne back before the original Roseanne, back before she was being racist on Twitter, when they had to replace the daughter like 15 times. It's just a different daughter every episode. It's like that.
Until they finally settled on one. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're thinking of Bewitched, right? She changed the husband up.
Bewitched, yeah, Daryl. When they switched Daryls.
Her and her creepy little nose twitch.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
Love
think it
that
was.
show.
I didn't think it was creepy.
Well,
I'm just trolling. It's pretty cute.
It's because witchcraft is of the devil.
You're of the devil.
No, I just never could figure out how she did it. And I was like,
Seriously, I never did either. And with the power of Google, we could easily, like 5 seconds from now, know it.
Oh yeah, I know.
I'm not going to bother with it.
The power of Google.
All right, so speaking
like
of
that
Google,
skit.
hold on. I got it. Okay, doing a search here real quick. Whose RP should go first? All right, they've got a new algorithm. It's an AI in Google. It actually predicts the future. Oh, look, it says Jazz.
Oh, wow.
Even
That's
Google
a shock.
wants Jazz to go first. Thank you, Google,
Sorry,
our
Jazz.
future overlord.
You're going first, Jazz.
Yeah.
You're the woman.
Hey, I reminded everybody yesterday to make little notes about your roleplay throughout the week so that you would be better prepared.
Sounds so thrilled.
Yeah, and I totally did do that. And now I can't find where
Well, I didn't get that memo. I had the discussion, but I never actually got the memo on that.
Right, which is why it doesn't matter, because you talked to me during the entire week. You have the benefit of getting this, not 1 day a week, but all 7. Yeah.
Sorry.
I like that pause before she giggled, like she was thinking, "Oh God, what do I say?"
Yeah, like how do I not escalate this to the point where he tries to cuddle with me tonight?
Oh no.
Right. Oh, thanks a lot, assholes in the chat. Fuck you all. Seriously. Exile, Rahanar, go fuck yourselves. She already has enough sympathy from everybody we work with. She doesn't need it from you assholes, too.
It's okay, guys. I'll let you know. We have 2 little dogs. I just stick them right between us. Perfect blockers.
She also has like 14 full body pillows, which I don't know what kind of signal that's putting out there.
That's cold.
Right, it
body
is.
pillows.
She's named them.
Just the one I cuddle to.
So, Jazz, before I open my wrist, what have you been doing in roleplay this week? Did you ever find your list? Oh, we lost. I think we lost
Is Jess gone?
Yeah,
She
we
just-
lost her. Oh, we lost her. She's gone. She lost
just
power.
Oh, wow.
All right, so I hate to do this. Sib, you're up first. Technically, I told her first, so then she lost power. Thank God we have her. She texted me. So, Sib, you're up.
Okay, let's see.
Wow, that was boring. All right, Strafae, you're next.
Oh,
I'm kidding. Go on, Sibby.
I didn't get a chance. Okay, let's see. Sunday night, went to the tea house, did a little RP, just with the servants of the Tribunal Guild. Tea house was major packed, so it was a little difficult. Before that, I had RP'd with one of the people I met up there 2 weeks ago. I'm really horrible about pronouncing names. It was like Tiramal, but he's super nice, and getting to know him, just doing random RP here and there with him. Then we finished up with baseball games this week, so I am now will be more in game, hopefully.
Engage.
But yeah. But I went into game Thursday and made it to Alanu Guild Night, and I had a blast. It was a full house, and everyone was very sociable and a lot of fun. And I was on my little orc, who is in a relationship with Strafae's character, and it was hilarious because we were all standing around Sayel. How do you say her name, Strafae?
Jazz's character, Sayel.
I just call it Sia.
Sia. Thank you.
Yep.
I knew I was saying it wrong. I say everybody's name
Well,
wrong.
it's pronounced Sayel when you say it fully, but Sia when you say it shortly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sia. So we were all standing around her, and a couple of the other people in the guild were vampires, and they were testing people's blood that had alcohol in it. Well, one of them acted like she got drunk, and she came over and she started chatting up Trithalis, who is Fully's,
Bae.
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 Did I use that right? Am I cool now? Kishmas, when you listen to this later,
you're
am I
not cool. Stop, you're interrupting. I'm trying to get this done. So, anyway, Fully, she said something about she wanted to have fun with him, and she was hoping that wasn't inappropriate. And my character turned around and basically told her if she's inappropriate, that she'd kill her. That, keep it appropriate and everything will be fine. So, and of course, Trithalis got a big kick out of that. And then
she went full female Klingon, pretty much. It was great.
Yeah, she's just like, he's mine. And then, of course, whenever they got done dancing, to basically mark her territory, she kissed him in front of everybody. So, yeah. So it was a lot of fun. Stop that! Make it so bad. But that's my main story is the guild night at Alanu, and basically letting everybody know that Trithalis
and peeing on Strafae's leg.
Marking her territory. She didn't do that. She just kissed him in public.
Oh, that's oh, come on, Strafae. We all know that for women, that is the bitch. You best get away from my man. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But yeah,
he was shaking his leg off all the way back to the manor.
I snap, but my hands are sweaty and moist. I don't know if anybody in the rest of the country's noticed. It's a little hot.
But that was my RP for this week, and hopefully this next week I will actually be in game more and be able to be. And we'll be off. Social. Oh,
most of it.
We got vacation the last half of the week, so I'm looking forward to that.
Happy 4th of July, America. America.
Yeah.
That's right.
Happy pre-4th.
So, all right. Well, that's cool. Sounds like fun. And yeah, I heard you guys in here just laughing away at it. I definitely heard that. That's her peeing on his leg kind of a thing.
It was fun RP.
It was pretty funny. Well, and it's one of those things, like, your characters, they're not really like that, but it would take somebody coming in from the outside to give you that opportunity to be like, you know what? Bitch, this is mine.
And that's basically what it was, because she was all flirty with him, and Wooly was not liking it at all. She was like, no. But she just told her, you better be appropriate with him or else. So, but that's
wants something like, you better behave or I'm breaking your face.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Yeah, these tusks ain't just for decoration. They can be used as weapons. All right. And yes, Wakichota, he says he never had women fight for him, only attempt to murder him. I just assumed that meant he's been married once. Apparently, no.
Whatever he says,
I mean,
it's dubious, to be sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've woken up to the glaring stare of a pillow just inches from my head and be like, oh no, I was just fluffing it for you, sweetie. No. Go back to sleep. It's all a dream. I fear for my life. Call the police. So, Strafae, what'd you do this week, buddy?
Monday night, we did boot camp, ordinator boot, out in the Bailey, right there in front of the tower. And it was an interesting night because whoever was formerly in charge decided she was going to kill 3 Outlanders and show how tough we were supposed to be, and pretty much make us all look like fools and see if we'd answer one way, but then, it didn't really matter what we did.
The old bait and switch, right.
Yeah, it was the bolt bait and switch. And my tune, Kizdian, he ran away from his noble life in House Salalu, became a bandit because, hey, he could be free. He didn't have to marry the ugly Redoran girl he was supposed to. And he just saw this going on. He's like, I've seen this before, except it was in the hills near Ebonheart with a bunch of bandit lords and innocent passerbyers. And so that kind of flavored that night. It was definitely some dark RP. I did enjoy how the y'all stood up and logicked her choice into a corner, and then that particular officer had to admit it, but she did it really quickly and then moved on. But I was like, I believe I sent you a tell Ashton like, that a boy, bro.
Yes.
Stick it to her.
Well, it's like, I don't want to. I like the person that does it. They actually do a lot of cool stuff. But the only problem I have sometimes is a lot of their stuff is the extreme of the extreme. It's always, you notice it's always women.
Yes.
It's always small children. It's the thing that's supposed to evoke like a serious emotional response, but the fact that it happens every single time, you know, it makes it takes away, you know, it's like when you're, you know, like the way TV has gone, you know, back in, like we were talking about with Bewitched, you know, the golden age of television, you know.
Yeah.
And then you say something that plays in that same time slot today, and it's like CSI, you know, Miami, and there's someone's rib cage open, which, you know, you aired that back then. But now you saw it all the time, and now it has no impact. It's just part of the story.
It's like Kurt kissing Uhura, and it was like the biggest thing.
Right, that was
back in the day. Now it's like no one cares.
It's like, an interracial kiss, the first interracial kiss on television, and it's like, oh, you know, people were pissed, and it was this big controversy, and now
it's a norm, you know,
and now like I mean, which is good, obviously, a white dude and a black chick, or let's be fair, another black dude, whatever you're into. It doesn't really matter anymore, you know. Now that it's just is accepted. So when you know, there is something to that. But in role play, you want, like, when babies are killed and stuff, you want that to be impactful. But when you do it every time,
in their case, I believe it's the ring of power. Hey, look, I can do this, and look how cool I am, and this is how we're supposed to be, and let me drum it, let me beat it into your dome.
Right.
Yeah, it is what it is.
The other part of that is that I don't care for when people do is the you give 3 options, all of which are wrong, and it's the bait and switch. It's the switch. Well, and like, really, I mean, the obvious answer was going to be which one of these of these 3 deserves mercy.
Exactly.
You know, one was a thief that stole bread, one was a heretic that worshipped Daedra, and the other was a female-on-female rapist and murdered a child.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that worked, but I didn't question it.
Right. Jazz did, which was funny.
And it touched Kizian because he is a former highwaymer. And so, and he went up with y'all, so they'll spare the Khajiit doing, you know, getting bread. And he even said before that, he goes, you know, she is kind of lying. She's Khajiit. She has claws. She can go hunt game.
Right.
I don't believe I wanted you to recruit Kizian. You sat down there and shut up. Like, fair enough. But the point is, Kizian's a former bandit in their ranks, and they're killing a petty thief for bread, and Kizian's like, wow, I really am in the army. Well, this whole religious deal is a big facade.
Right. Well, and technically, it's actually true. I mean, they are. Yeah,
it is.
In the scope of the lore, they are on the wrong side of history with the 3. So.
And I mean, and the little secret that Kizian, he may or may not still pray to Azura and or Meridia. Just saying.
You just keep that to yourself. Yeah.
So he doesn't say anything, but he saw all this going down. He's like, dude, I got to watch what I do pretty much. But it was the whole bait and switch.
It was in a way, for me, in character, the way the question was phrased is which one of these would deserve, you know, or could deserve mercy. Well, clearly it's the one that stole a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
The other one is a heretic, and the other one murdered something, you know, so.
But they're all Inwa. They all deserve to die.
Right, and that was, like, in character again, knowing her, as Tarvala does, the answer obviously was none, but that wasn't what was asked. They were given 3 options. None wasn't one of them. So, like, logically, that's the ones that, you know, chickened out, that was not what was asked. So, yeah, it's not my favorite way to do that. And it also, I mean, I noticed it also hurts the in-character, I can't think of the word, morale, I guess would be the word.
Oh, yeah,
like trust. It hurts the trust. I don't know why I couldn't think of the fucking word trust.
This means you can't trust your higher-ups because no matter what you do, they're out to smoke you.
Right.
And it was pretty rough. I know Zasher rolled poorly, and Zasher almost left.
Yeah,
and,
she
had a
rolled really.
From,
I know, it's a shame. She's she said she texted me and says, of course something fuckered on boot, so she's working on it. She's trying to get back, but I guess the power outage must have glitched her computer a little bit. I hate when that happens.
Well, I know Roger took him aside and talked to her.
Yeah, and at the
end of the
that's what I
night,
told her. I was like,
think
maybe
he
rolls
decided
aren't
to
the best
stay,
way.
and he came out of the barracks after Kizdian volunteered to clean up the blood because it was kind of personal to Kizdian at that point.
Yeah. Well, and that was...
and that's the only way he could be defiant. It's like, hey, someone should clean this up, pick one of the recruits, and Kizdian stepped up and said, I volunteer, and just started doing it.
I volunteer as tribute.
I mean, he just did it to...
I know, it's just Hunger Games.
Yeah, pretty much.
But
so they went to the pub afterwards, and they all found him, and they had a good little chat.
And I because it wasn't just you guys, of course. If it was just you guys, it's not, which is enough to. I was just there for the role play, but it was also there were several other people that I could, there were a lot of people nodding and agreeing with Tarvala in, right in the middle of all that.
Yeah,
this is not the best way to go about it. But I finding you guys, and it was a lot of fun just sitting there and chatting, even though she kept saying, hey, use my name or sister, and they're all like, Yalif, yeah.
Because we're recruits.
After a while, she just gave up on it.
We're recruits. We're afraid to smoke
just
to make us do like 50 push-ups, like right there on the floor. So
yeah, and after,
but it's a situation where the recruits now respect their sergeant, which is the Yalif, more than they do command right now. That's how it's turned. That's kind of how it went.
Right, and that's why she's gonna try to do what she can to fix that, because obviously, of course, she wants to still be respected and listened to as well, but it shouldn't be her above aboves, so.
Yeah, and then after all that, I think Kizdian got crop dusted for his I
did
trouble.
Crop dust you.
He looked over the recruit next to him and gave him a look like, really, dude? And the recruit's like, what?
It's just a stupid thing I've done. I say right in the middle of all that, I said him a thing. Once the wind shifts, Tarvala crop dusts him from like 3 people down at an angle. Not really.
It was good.
It was really an OOC thing, but
it was
still funny to take it in character, just because it was completely meaningless.
So it definitely lightened the mood, because that was a dark RP.
Yeah,
that was.
Yeah.
Kishmas and you both do that.
So towards the end of the bar night, Kizdian kept trying to flirt with Yalif, and Yalif's like, that'd be charming if I could believe a word coming out of your head, Halalu.
Yeah.
It was a fun night.
It was. Yeah, I don't know why, but for some reason it feels like she would just use his house name instead of his real name until he proves
they all hate nobles.
Yeah. Yeah,
hey, no mind that he hasn't lived a noble's life since he was like a young mer, but hey, it's still a deal.
Right, but it's his attitude that comes off as like, I used to be a noble, or we're a scummy bandit kind of a thing. So it's just
he's going off more that scoundrel bandit, like Dread Pirate Roberts thing is what he's doing. But Tuesday night. Go ahead, Sibby. Sorry.
I was gonna say, I know one of my characters in the servants can't stand him. She wants to rip his tongue out.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
And no, Hunter 9, I'm not going to start a co-op. Oh, a coup? No. English is dumb, by the way.
I'll stand with you if you decide to head roll. Just saying.
No, I wouldn't do that. There was a character that tried to do that, and
it didn't go well.
It didn't go well because out of character he was also a nut job and terrible. But in character he talk about overstretching boundaries. So, but no, that was actually a really fun night with, especially after the fact, role playing with you guys. I think that was the first time all three of us had been on like that. And
it's true.
Caves' character too, who was basically a washed out recruit, like
washed out. And he still didn't want to be in, but he found us in the bar. We found him in the pub. He's like, hey, you want to drink with us?
Yeah,
we need a drink. We're in the worst way because the whole crap show we watched.
So what
Tuesday
else did you
night?
Have?
We did poetry. Odd thing was, like, nobody, like, everybody, there was a few folks around, but when it came to time, like, the guild list, my friends list emptied out like there was a sale down at the mall. I mean, there was nobody online except one of our new Altmer ladies showed up. There's 3 of us. So everybody, like, I think Anya read 1 poem, and then Trathis ended up reading poems the whole rest of the night.
So weird because, like, I mean, last week you had that happen, but, like, wasn't it the week before that you had, like, you actually had to move it because you were over your house?
It was full house.
Yeah, that's so.
I think I made some people uncomfortable, and I think that spread around to that group, and I don't think we're going to see him for a while. I don't know. I could be
I think
completely
it's
wrong.
just
I hope I'm wrong.
random. I think people
it's
just, if they're on, they come.
I will
if they're
say,
not, they don't.
in Servants, it's also been very, very hit. Like, there was supposed to be something yesterday, and I was already doing something else, but they ended up having to do like just a RP barbecue cookout because there just wasn't enough people around for what was actually scheduled. So it's
think really with
it's
summer,
just the
it's
summer
summertime.
thing. Yeah,
I'm
it really
summer.
is so hitting it. You know, and that was Friday, and then like a Friday before that, somebody had done, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, maybe, but still in this lull. I forget what her name was. One of the people did something, and she had like 20 people show up. You know, and then a week later, the same exact night, nobody's around. It's just the fucking summer. It's just
It's
so
a summer.
wacky.
It's
Yeah.
hit or miss, but we had a good time anyway.
Yeah, that's cool.
Wednesday, I was at church, so I didn't see anybody until late. OOC, me and Jess decided that Anya and Trath were practicing the harp and the violin, doing their music hour after lunch, being a bunch of snobby high elves. Thursday was Guild night, and that was fun. There was a lot of people going there. Everybody was chatting it up. Voli, of course, showed up later. Trath moved over to talk to her at some point.
I already stole the story.
We got
Sorry.
Sia. Yeah, so Sia was brought in by one of Trath's troopers assigned to him, and she needed a bit of fresh air. Her tune has gone through some pretty much an epic beating, and she's on the mend. So we went over to talk to her, and yes, this drunken vampire girl came up to Trath. You look so fancy, Hiccup. I want to learn how to dance a fancy opera dance. And Trath was like, I see. How unfortunate for you, darling.
Damn it. I was drinking.
We also decided that Trath's supposed to sound like Roger Moore, so that's even more.
Yes.
Is that what you
pretentious.
guys were talking about? I thought you were just talking about James Bond shit, but
No, we're talking about Trath's
No.
British
I getcha.
accent.
How funny.
So apparently it's Roger Moore, and that's what the ladies decided. I'm like, hey, I'm cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
So she drug him off. Trath kept looking at Voli because Voli kept giving the look like, I'm watching you, sucker. Like, I'll end you if you do
Getting
something
that
I don't like.
female stink eye. Like,
Yeah, it's a stink eye.
hands above the waist and below the rib cage. Yeah.
At that point, Trath said, very well, we're going to do a
Shoulders.
Altmer waltz, which was like a court dance where nobody touches each other. You just dance and match each other opposite. And so he tried to teach her that, and she was so drunk she fell on her butt. Draven came over to take her away. Trath saw his out, came back over to the group. And while they're still watching, then Voli pulled her stunt where she grabbed him by the collar, pulled him down to the proper height, which is her height, and laid one on him, which messed him all over because Trath is used to the whole Altmer courting, which is years and years of we'll go out somewhere, we'll have a talk, we'll share information.
Eating a fine
This and that.
cheese, perhaps?
Yes, exactly. It's all prim and proper. Like, no one ever touches an Altmer dating. And she touched his hand a little bit, which kind of sent him over the moon. And then she
Now
did
she's
that, and he
just
was like,
sucking face
well.
in front of everybody.
Yeah, and he was like, he didn't know how to handle it. He was like, oh, well, this is happening.
This is what you get with dating
This
an
is
orc.
most curious. Yeah, so it was a good night. He carried Sia home. She could recover. And Friday, everybody was playing the Mushroom Kingdom, so I just wandered around Somerset, kind of chilling. So
Ian Face says,
people of the week.
dance like a middle schooler, arms straight out, hands on shoulders, leave room for Jesus.
That's right.
I remember.
Well, to be honest, I was riding around Somerset doing quests, really going dancing with myself. Oh.
God. We are the worst when it comes to thinking of the worst possible songs from the 80s. You
Yep.
know that?
That's
That was-
Billy Idol, though.
I know, but it's still just, sometimes it's, even the classics could still have a way a lot of cheese in them. Doesn't mean I
Yeah,
enjoy
that's
them any less, but I know they're horrible.
Oh, yeah.
So, I guess
All right.
I'll go since Jazz is...
You're in the hot seat.
She's having problems, so hopefully she'll be able to make it back. But, so I did the same thing, obviously, like, that's why I went ahead and talked with Strafae, when they did the thing on Monday. I actually I've been continuing to play Star Trek, bouncing back and forth between them, Star Trek Online. I have made contact. Captain's log, stardate 89.4 and a half, rounded off to the nearest decimal point. No, I'm kidding. I always loved that from Ace Ventura.
Captain, we don't have the power if you'd be running that iPad all night. What are you doing in
Hell
there?
the pair! I cannot reach the control panel. I've gotten too fat, Captain.
Simpsons.
Oh dear gosh.
It was actually the Simpsons did that, and Scotty was so round and fat, his stomach was in his little stubby arms were trying to reach it, and then they blew up. But no, I've actually I did an out-of-character interview with this guild called I think it's the 38th Fleet Argo. I don't know where the Argo comes from, and I was actually I was the first one to apparently make the Argonian joke. Argonians, and I was like, has anyone ever called you Argonians, like the lizard people from Elder Scrolls? And like, not that I'm aware of. I'm like, haha, first.
Of course you would.
Of course not. They're thinking Gorn when you say any kind of lizard race, right?
Right, pretty much, yeah. Which, by the way, the Gorn in that game look way different from the shitty Gorn I remember from the original Star Trek. They
look like the evil cousins of the Trandoshans from Star Wars.
They really do. They really, really do. But no, so I had a conversation with them, and what was funny about this is Star Trek. Obviously, it's sci-fi. It's not so much fantasy, but a lot of their out of character questions, I had a feeling I knew where some of these had come from. It was things like, are you a shapeshifter? That they don't allow characters that are Q, something that's all powerful, things like that, which is basically the Star Trek version of vampires and werewolves.
And pretty much Q is like the DM of the whole Star Trek universe.
Right, and
anyway,
he's if you like played a Q, you're literally god modding at that point, because that's, right? Is there anything that they can't do?
Mon Capitan, you wound me.
Mon Capitan. He's such a great actor. I love that guy. But yeah, they had a lot of questions like, you can't be from the mirror world, which is like, that's the goatee Spock thing. Time travel is very restricted. All these things. It's like, this is stuff that has had to have been a problem at one point or another, that they've had to be like, all right, guys. Okay, so no more characters from alternate timelines or from the future that knows everything that's about to happen. Or, it's very limited in what they do. Like, they'll allow it, but it's got to pass the muster of their guild and their guild.
Yeah, they probably dealt with a lot of dirt, right? Bro.
And that's what it was so funny, was going through this. I'm like, this is just the sci-fi version of everything fantasy MMO role players ask. It's literally the exact same thing. Yeah, it just cracked me up to see that. I finally Friday, I got to actually role play, which was my first time role playing in Star Trek, and I know Star Trek pretty well. I've seen pretty much all the shows and stuff like that. But I'm not as familiar, with the game mechanics in the world of where it's currently at. I think they're in like 2410.
If you want, I do have a lifetime account. I can totally log in and join you if you need a fellow buddy. Instead of
I did pretty
randos.
good. I got a tour of their starbase, which is Deep Space 13 is what they call it. It was a lot of fun. Holy shit, those starbases are really, they're freaking gargantuan too for the player-made guild house thing, or fleet, whatever, that's going to take a while to get used to. But it was a lot of fun. Got the tour. Of course, I created a female because I really had only planned to check out. I didn't really, and then after a while, I was like, I guess I should probably check out and see if there's roleplay. So she's Zavala Sewell, and she's a Trill, which is the ones, if you watch Deep Space Nine, the Jadzia Dax, the people with the spot and have the slug in their stomach. So I'm thinking she's either the second, or I'm still coming up with it. She's the second or third body that the slug's inhabited. So she's not as old as like Dax was, for example. But no, it was fun. I got to meet a lot of people. They're actually all really cool. Their roleplay rules and stuff for their guild, it's literally as if I had made it up myself. Like there was nothing I wasn't like, that's fair. That's fair.
Good.
That's fair. People like things like, because there's starships and stuff. So like, am I able to take my uber powerful tier, I don't know what they call it, tier 6 souped out modded ship, and and they're like, out of character, you can play in whatever you want. In character, if you have a ship, most of it's role play anyway. It's, imaginative. It needs to be lore appropriate for whatever, the Federation. And of course, they actually they've done a very clever thing where I guess the Romulans in this Strafae are broke up into two, the Romulan Star Empire and the Romulan Republic.
So,
and the
Star
Empire is still the
Empire
bad guys.
is the remnant. They're still cooking around, but they're they don't have total control anymore. The Romulan people have spread up into the Republic. Right. And they either ally with the Klingons or the Fed. My Romulans ally with the Fed because what better way to get into the Federation's database while we're still friendly?
Right. And
I'm just saying.
And that's what this starbase is supposedly that's the premise of this 38th Fleet, this Argo is. It's a joint task force of the Romulan Republic. Yep. Whatever Klingons are still, I guess, because technically in game, I guess that Klingon war is over now. So I know that was a big thing for a long time. And I'm still playing through it, but game-wise, I guess it's over.
The whole Romulan content is so cool.
It's pretty interesting.
I highly recommend you check it out.
Yeah, I've been playing through the story. You are right. It is very much feels like a single-player game until you finally get into a fleet, which I'm still not part of. I'm in the process of, but I think it went very well. Apparently, I'm able to roleplay. Hey, Jazz, how's it going?
Welcome back.
Oh my God. Okay,
are you okay?
Thank you. Oh, I'm fine. I'm just
pissed.
God, I hate Windstream.
So Ashen, when
any of them are listening, I hate you.
That was terrifying.
So Ashen, if you want somebody to pal around with that, I could be persuaded to reload it up. Yeah. Hang out with you if you need a fellow buddy.
I mean, so far I've not run into anything that's multiplayer content. So, but if you're interested,
it's very solo-ish, and even the guild stuff, like the guild I was in, wasn't very friendly. So
yeah, these guys seem very active. Like I said, when I was just in their base, they have a neat thing too. Like I saw the person I've been talking to sitting there in the starbase in a spacesuit. I thought that was weird, and then she sends me us like, we put on spacesuits when we're AFK or OOC. I was like, oh, okay, well that makes sense because I guess they don't have a tag just like ESO doesn't have one so that you can go AFK and know it.
Yeah, that's pretty clever.
So they just slap on a spacesuit and like, boom, that person's AFK. It's like, okay, well that makes sense. I'm glad I didn't try to interact with you first.
Well, that's cool. I'm glad you found a good roleplay cell there. They're kind of hidden out.
They really are, and like it was just happened to be this was the first guild that I finally ran into that had a functioning website and things like that. And they are very old school. I will say it was cracking me up. They don't have a Discord, but I can respect that. I think it's a little outdated at this point because even if I can talk Jazz into it, it's outdated.
That's probably accurate.
Right. And I understand their reasonings. It's a lot of the same ones she gave at one time, like people shouldn't be forced to, not everybody's comfortable with voice chat and things like that. But with Discord, there's just so much more to it than the voice chat at this point. But holy crap, we're almost like an hour into the show. I'll shut up. But no, it was a lot of fun. I look forward to maybe having some different stories outside of a fantasy setting to share here. I'm not leaving ESO or going anywhere there. I did have one other thing happen, but I'll let Jazz, what'd you do in roleplay, and then I'll hit that, and then we'll carry on.
Why don't you finish, and then I'll talk?
Because what I have to say is very depressing. It isn't really roleplay related, but I still want to hit it. So I'll let you go, because that's all I had in the roleplay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was rudely interrupted by losing power, and then
not me this time.
Deciding that they didn't want to boot up.
Not me either.
My modem completely forgot who it was. Isn't that fun? So
it had RPM amnesia.
Yeah.
It had chain amnesia.
So let's see. Saturday, I don't remember what I did. I know I did just some general casual roleplay. Sunday, we did the tea house, and well, I should back up a little bit. The previous Friday, before the last podcast, we had a big RP thing start up in our Talbani guild. And then during the week, we had a meeting to put this person on trial for what had happened. And then we ended up retconning the whole thing.
Which,
for
oddly
reasons.
enough, kind of goes into what we have today with psychiatric reasons. People are fucking crazy.
Well,
it gets
everybody
bad when
has
you've
their
had
own...
to retcon something for three days worth of something because of
Yeah, it was 3
RP
days. And
has
it was...
consequences, and I don't know why. If you're gonna play something crazy or go out of control, man, take the hit. It's not like a permanent thing. It's okay.
Kids today don't want consequences, bro, and I don't get it either. It makes me nuts.
It does, but different RP styles. So after meeting with everybody and having my guild leader hat on most of the week, off and on to manage drama on 2 different occasions for 2 different people, retconning both things. I almost never retcon anything. You guys don't know.
No,
these guys do.
I personally hate it too. Yeah.
I would rather eat glass than I would like to find a way to make it work rather than go and say, okay, you know that RP we just spent the last week doing? Forget it.
Right, because it's a waste of, it's literally a waste.
You wasted
it's a waste
your time,
of time.
You wasted story
energy,
building, everything. And so, not to mention the exhaustion of dealing with drama when people are like, I don't want to pay consequences. So, regardless of all of that, most of my week was spent pushing out brush fires and handling the drama. Monday was ordinator training with Zash. Not Zash, Zaz. I keep wanting to reverse those two. Zaz.
We had talked a good deal about that while we were waiting on you.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah.
well,
it was a big
role
roleplay thing during the week.
Yes, it was. It was really big, and it was a big deal, and I did not roll well.
You roll like ass.
At all. And I have a rule, and again, you guys don't know me, but these guys do. I roll and that's it. But I rolled and I didn't like it, so I rolled again, and it was still the same thing, and I rolled again, and each time I roll, when I re-roll, because I want something different, I want to make sure that this is really what's going to happen, I'll switch around my priorities so that if it was low means I don't do this, high means I do this. The next time I reverse it so that, I have a better chance of getting what I want. And I rolled again. I rolled 3 times. And the answer was the same all 3 times. So I threw it out and I said, well, he's not going to do that, but it's obviously going to do that. Right,
because you're not leaving the guild, which is basically...
No, I'm not going to leave the guild.
Yeah.
I think that's where he was heading, and that's where my roles were kind of pointing towards. And
You're pretty upset in voice chat. I mean, you were pretty upset in voice chat. I do remember that.
I was irritated that it was going that way, yes. Yeah. I have left guilds before because of roles. I know that it ends up with a lot of hurt feelings, and I get really stressed out when it happens because I know that people are going to be like, so you're just making that up. They don't understand the dice thing. So
because it sounds insane to everybody else, right?
I don't think it sounds insane, you ass. It's how I handle not mixing, so that I'm not making
I
decisions.
just like messing with you.
I know you do. You're trolling me. I can tell because you're giggling like a maniac.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So I ended up rolling again with regular dice. The thing is with the randomizer things, it's not really random because it's a computer program, so it can't be random by definition. It's just easier, and we all use it, but real dice are far more random. I'm sorry, but it's true. Mathematically, I'm correct. So I just went and got...
Those I've seen programmers it's as close to random as you can get, but it's still just, it's a program.
Yeah. So I went and I got a real die, and I threw a real die. And
one of these?
I heard that.
One of those. And I got right in the middle.
Hope that was a nat 20.
Oh my God, actually it was. I just looked at it. It was a 20.
That's hilarious.
Excellent.
So I ended up not having him leave. He talked to the boss, and he got yelled at by everybody. And
is that what they did when they brought them all in there? Was just probably yelled at you? Is that what I figured was happening?
Well, they basically told him he was being a baby, and no one really took the time to figure out the problem wasn't They made it seem like he just
it wasn't
like
the killing, it was the deception.
The deception, they're bound, they have no chance. He is lawful.
Give them a dagger and let them let
him fight. You know, at the very least, if they're bound and they have no choice, just let their throat and be over it. Just let their throat and be over it. He doesn't have a problem with killing their Enwa. The issue is the suffering, and he was like, that wasn't right. There's no way for me to stretch my mind around that making it right. He just should have slit their throats. And that was his problem, but he couldn't get anybody to listen, and he was so furious. And I was upset because I didn't know how to make him known without crossing into OOC. And I hate explaining things OOC. So I didn't want to do that, and didn't. And he left. He was dismissed, and he walked out. And he got his stuff, and he left. And he went and got completely shit-faced with Strafae, Toon, and another character who used to be in the Servants Guild but isn't anymore, and met us at the tavern, and we all three got drunk. And it was a lot of fun. And in the end, you know, my roles are still really crappy, and he's out killing things and getting his head right and praying and doing all those goody things. So, you know...
all that boring stuff you don't want to role play out yourself.
Yeah, right. I really don't want to role play it out. So I've been leveling him, and he's just been out there trying to get his head screwed on straight. So that ended that. But the role play from Monday kind of carried over. It was in the back of my head, and I rolled a couple times, and I wrote for him in his journal. And I don't post his journal on the Servants website most of the time. I post it on my own site because I don't want people to get upset at me, and I haven't had a lot of luck lately with that, so I post on my site where I can kind of control the go back. I write, as they can attest to, very acidic and blunt, and I don't have my characters pull their punches when they're in their journal because it's their journal.
Right. Anymore.
And not everybody understands that, and they're like, you're being mean to my Toon. No, he's just being
your
himself.
Toon doesn't know anything
venting
about it. What are you worried about?
Exactly.
So
I got memories of somebody I used to role play with used to read your journal all the time. I think they were obsessed with you. Did you know what she wrote about your Toon, Strafae, da 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 da? I was like, I don't care, man. That's her deal. I mean, what am I going to do? Tell her not to think the way she wants to think?
Don't write about me.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, come on, get a grip.
And the truth of it was, I never wrote about anybody I didn't ask permission to first.
I don't do that. I'll write about you if it comes up.
If I am going to write about somebody by name, now I wrote about people and didn't say who they were. They may know who I'm talking about, but that's not my fault. I'm covered because I don't name them. Anyway, so most of the week has primarily just been firefighting. And dealing with all of that. But the role play with Zasher kept me occupied on Monday, and I've just kind of been trying to handle life in general. And we had Talvani RP last night. My character Soldreni is now a magister instead of a master, because Dalatori stepped down, so she's going to be the magister now, and so that will be some interesting RP.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's back on track. Everything's back on track. Everything's moving forward at the proper pace. It's just, this week was just...
Yeah. Yeah, and they happen. And we had a really rough week. The reason that I jazzed, you'll understand now, is we had to put my dog down yesterday.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yuna, my husky, who I've had for 10 years, and she was about 1 or 2 years old when I got her. So she was 11, 12-year-old dog. But
I remember her, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful dog. She's named Yuna because she had a brown eye, she had a blue eye, 2 different colored eyes, just like Yuna from Final Fantasy X. She helped me.
Sad face.
Yeah, she helped me through my divorce. Jazz did as well. She was there. Before I met, I knew Sid, but before her and I were a thing.
He just kicked me when he was feeling angry back in those days.
That's right. Wait, I was always nice to you, you piece of shit.
I rest my case.
But she's...
I'm sorry, honey. I know that dog
she was... She couldn't see, she couldn't hear. We can't have her in the house because she gets stuck like in a chair leg. I mean, she didn't know where she was. Her hips were bad. She couldn't stand hardly up on her own. So it was just getting worse and worse. She had no quality of life, and unfortunately, it was time. But she was my baby girl. She was there for me, after my divorce. She was the first thing I got that was mine, And no matter how many times she tried to escape, she's a fucking husky. She either always got returned to me, or if I went and found her herself, all I had to do was open the car door, because she liked car rides more than she liked walking. So she would always just jump right in. If I chased her down the street, she'd keep running. But if I jumped in the car, went right to it, cracked open the door, and went, "Come here," and vroom. Well, I do want to share one story. It was one Sib reminded me of. It was at our other house. It was a nice day. We had the back door open. I had made myself an adult beverage in a cup. It was one of these little plastic cups right here that you guys can see on there. They're just the little, they're like they're like almost like a Solo cup, but made of
Solo
cup. But
I
they're
feel you.
reusable kind of a thing. So I had it on the counter or the coffee table in the dining room. I went to the bathroom and come back, and my cup is gone. It's gone. Nothing was spilled either. It was just gone. So I call out to Sib. I'm like, "Hey, did you take my drink?"
No.
She doesn't drink, by the way. So I was like, "Why?" I thought maybe she was being an ass and just playing a practical joke on me. I'm old. I'm not that old.
I can be an ass.
We start looking around for it, and we look outside, because Yuna is inside by this point, and there is my cup, sitting perfectly in the middle of the yard. Not a drop spilled. She picked the damn thing up with her teeth, and carried it all the way out there, so that she could sneak a drink and see if she liked it, realized she doesn't like alcohol, and then just came back inside and left it there. Yeah. Perfectly
That's
fine.
Hilarious.
She's just such a mess. I love that dog so much. So my Yuna's gone, but she was a good dog, and so that's why I'm a little scatterbrained, and I probably won't be. I bawled like a fucking baby. There's nothing. I lost it.
No shame in that, bro.
No. Oh no.
No, that's your doggy.
You're Han Solo, that's your Wookiee, man. That's not cool.
So as soon as Sib, I understand she didn't want to be there because it's rough, but she went very peacefully. As soon as the nurse closed the door, man, I lost it. That was. I felt so bad. You never want to have to make that choice for any animal, but I'm telling you, people, if you have something that you love and it's got no quality of life, it is an animal, it is a dog, but it is like family as well. Mm-hmm. Don't let it suffer. Just it's a hard choice, and you will feel guilty for it, but consciously you've got to follow your brain over your heart and just make the right choice for them. So that's my little PSA. So, and also probably why I've just been completely out of it and all over the fucking place today. So, yeah, but no, I wanted to let everybody know because she's worth at least a quick couple minutes there. So,
to the epic Wookiee that was Yuna.
That's right.
Salute.
My baby girl.
She was a sweetheart.
Mm-hmm. So, with that, now that I've depressed everybody, we'll go ahead and hit our main topic right after a word from our sponsors. What are you looking at? Are you looking at me? Oh my, oh yes you are, that's right baby. Daddy has all of your, don't look at me. Yes you. No, don't you look over here. Hey, cutie. What's wrong? Am I too sexy for you to take a peek at? Oh, sugar, you don't know what you're missing. Eyes forward. What is this nonsense you're spitting? I don't hear anyone ask you to look at me. Look at these baby browns. Come on, sweet cheeks, show them to me. You know you want to. Stop it. You're driving me crazy. Why don't you want me to do this? Oh, come on, Harley. Come back, baby, please. And freeze. What you have just encountered is a person that is, in a nutshell, crazy. Just crazy, and should be handled with extreme caution. Or you could try our new line of perfumes. I am not the one. Guaranteed to make the loonies keep their distance. Let me give you a small demonstration with one little squirt. There we go. Now, let's see. Hey, you sexy. You come here for a good time? Why don't you shut... Oh, God, what is that? Oh, for the love of... Oh, holy hells! Oh! That's right, yes, it works just like that. One spray of those crazies will leave you alone. I am not the one is made with smoldering ash from the moldiest of cigarette butts. The chemical liquid fluid from the most used porta potties, the essence of trash at a landfill with just a hint of juices of roadkill. If you don't run those crazies away with just one spray, we'll be happy to refund your money. Warning, not responsible for infections, rotting flesh, septicemia, rashes, loose stools, bleeding from the eyes, puking blood, whizzing, blindness, cold chills, hemorrhoids, hair loss, weight gain, weight loss, memory loss, loss of friends, or the gum disease known as gingivitis. Use at your own risk with extreme caution. Nice.
I don't know how you paid Mr. J to do a cameo, but man,
he is. That was excellent. He is very expensive. Hold on, I gotta take it.
Well, just like Gormal, you know, he kind of wrecks the place on the way out. So I hope you insured.
Yeah,
the
I
studio.
actually wonder if this isn't a Gormal product because it seems like that's something he would come up with. To be honest, I wonder if this is one of his subsidiaries. Maybe.
I mean, he is a venture capitalist troll. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, guys, I'm going to go with Mr. J, so I'll see you guys later.
Oh, dang.
Oh.
Come on over here. Let's go have some fun.
And now we all know Sibh'Bae was really Harley Quinn the whole time. The shock.
I had to throw that in there.
Oh, man. Okay, so...
I do have a little news story.
Oh, yes.
That I put in there.
Go for it.
It's nothing real fancy. It's on. I was just kind of flicking through stuff and I saw it and I thought it would actually be a really good.
Just
RP
get to the
thing.
point.
Okay, sorry.
We're already an hour and 10 minutes in. So
it's in Black Desert Online and it has reopened. It's reinvent or rev.
I couldn't pronounce that word either.
Renovated water park for the summer.
Yeah, I kept
So
stumbling on it too.
if you're an RPer in Black Desert Online, and the article's by Bree Royce, and of course on Massively Overpowered.
The only place for MMO news.
Yeah. No, but apparently there's a water park called Terra Mayan.
That's the one I couldn't pronounce, yeah.
Terra Mayan Water Park. And it opens, it's open now until July 18th. And it sounds like it's a lot of fun and it'd be a lot of fun to go RPN. They've got like, you can pop giant clams, shoot coconut cannons, cliff dive, explore the ghost ship, shoot at water balloons, jumping puzzles, test your strength. A lot of
So it's like going to Okinawa.
Yeah.
They didn't have this in there when we played, so
No, I don't remember it. But
I think we got hosed. Where's our Argonian water park? You know, with the gator slide and all that.
Fetid swamp water, giant mosquitoes, right?
Yeah.
It sounds interesting, and it sounds like a fun place that if you're an RPer in that game, you might check it out in RP, see if there's any RP going on, and let us know. So,
Yeah.
but that was
Yeah.
my little news story. I just thought it was cute for
I
the
think
summer.
there's a few. I saw in Star Trek Online they're having something over in Risa, which is it's a summer festival as well. So I'm thinking those are getting ready to kick back up on a lot of games. I don't know what
Well, I
Risa's
know.
was, but
I know,
Yeah,
like
Rise
in
is cool.
ESO, we wouldn't
You'll-
have anything like that.
Yeah, the Rise of one, bro. It's really fun. You should check it out.
no. What was it? Somebody had said, oh gosh, there's some. Dang it! I can't even bring it up because I can't remember. There's some new house coming to ESO like next month. That's very apparently summer styled. So of course you have to buy it, and it's probably $200 or $150, but still,
More likely.
more than likely. Strafae, you need to put that in the general chat, by the way. Share that with everybody. That one's I love that.
Oh, that's not. I thought it was in general.
No, you did that in host chat. That is an Argonian water park. But okay, so getting to the topic here, psychiatric help. It's not so much what you need as so much as, when people play crazy characters. A lot of them, they're not always done great, but they're also, because they're not easy to do. If you're not crazy, well, and if you are, you usually don't know it, or you can't really control it. So playing a character that has like a mental disorder or a psychiatric problem isn't always the easiest thing to do.
And it doesn't even have to be a mental disorder or psychiatric problem. It could
Just
be
someone
that's, eccentric.
Stable.
like Luna Lovegood
Yeah.
from Harry Potter, like
Yeah.
something like Yuri played, or like Kenix. He actually technically he is more of a sociopath because I based him off of Raymond Reddington from Blacklist, and who will do the right things but do it in the wrong ways, which is definitely not a great way to go about it. But it's not always easy to keep. Sorry about that. It's different, and it's something out of a lot of people's. Not a lot of people will play those, but most characters. If you're killing constantly and you're always bragging about it, your character has a mental disorder, whether you intended it to or not. Like assassin characters, I think we can all agree there's a certain level of mental disorder inside somebody to be able to constantly kill like that and then go about their daily lives, So we've got a list of different things here that we're going to hit up as we go along. But to start out with, you want to know what kind of offbeat character do you want to play. You may not, like I said, if you even come up with I want to play an assassin or a thief. Well, right there, you're already decided that you're going to play a character with some sort of mental instability. Mm-hmm. Whether you even intended to or not. You may not be like, well, I want them to be, a schizophrenic or, or narcissistic. But there's certain things in there. Like I think, take the Catwoman, Selena Kyle from the Batman comics. She would be a narcissist. She's
Psychopath.
and a narcissist too, because she's very, very, given she also does have the skill to back it up, but she's very, very narcissistic in her abilities and her skill in what she can and can't get away with. But yeah, she's also,
You're absolutely right.
sociopathic.
I played Ringots, and he was literally an old EQ1 era assassin. It took Jazz's tune years to pull him out of it, and she didn't really ever pull him out of it, and he was still really a broken person.
Yeah, well, and some things can't fully, they can get better, but, they may never be able to be fixed.
I think he went from being a psychopath to a sociopath. He was slowly pulled out of his psychosis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's still nuts.
Right.
Yeah, it was.
So, but you gotta, it's like we know, every time you create a character, obviously you need to have an idea of what you want, but if you're going to play one with a disorder, you might need to give it a little extra thought. We've got a list of them from bipolar, schizophrenic, autistic, PTSD, narcissism. We're going to go into the difference between psychopath and a sociopath. They're in the same vein from all the reading I did, and that's what I always thought of. We researched a good bit of this, but it's different shades of gray, I guess, to to put it differently. So we're going to go into that. And the other aspect of this, too, is when we go over these, it might help people. Like when we're playing with role players, we're obviously a very eccentric bunch. We all know that. We all have problems. The thing that Jazz had this week with having to retcon stuff, that comes, I think, from some of these disorders. Now, they may not even know it. It may not be diagnosed, and it may not be severe enough to even require treatment, but maybe going through these, when someone says they're bipolar, perhaps after this you'll understand, everybody, and the problem with modern day is everybody, it's cool to be sick. So when everybody's pretending to be sick, it's not nearly as impactful, and it kind of takes, it's like when everyone cries racism. There's really, really bad racists, but when somebody does something, it's like just because the person was an asshole, everyone says it was racist. It takes away from the real
syndrome
racism.
Of the boy who cried wolf, right?
Right. It's called they call it the Overton window. Is as well as the, if you want to get into the ugly stuff of it, where stuff changes so drastically, the window moves and people fight against it, and so then the window moves back, but it doesn't move back quite to where it used to be. It's still a little forward. So it's a little bit more, it's a weird thing. So we're gonna hit up on that too, because it happens. I mean, we're all a little going through this. I'm like, well, shit, I got some serious issues. According to if this is even partly true, I might have to go get myself checked up.
This would be a great episode for Wakichota to call in, because he is a Navy psych tech.
There you go.
Corpsman. I don't know if he will or not, but I wish he would, because he could probably pronounce us all nuts.
Probably. But he listens to us, so
I don't want to know
foolish,
if I am.
the fool or the fool who follows him.
But what's he know? He's a Trandoshan, and Moonlight's a halfling, so, can you really trust that judgment?
You've got a good point. You've got a very good point.
He's probably all hyped up on Jum Jum, so, yeah.
He is a Jum Jum addict, yeah.
That's right. Love you,
Sorry,
Wakichota.
I didn't go ahead, bro. Sorry.
No, I was trying to think of something funny to say to him, but I was just like, nope, just love you, Wakichota. Also, thanks for the other bits that you sent in earlier.
Yes.
Someone was talking.
Totally call in Wacky. We need to make us crazy.
Sorry, my nose is itching like crazy. You ever get that where you can't concentrate because your nose starts to itch? Happened to me. Don't get discouraged if you go, like, when you first come up with this, like a wacky or nutty tune. It doesn't always work. Prepare for hiccups. Prepare for pushback. Like I had with Bargnar, who was played as, he wasn't really a nutter, but he was a dwarf, which makes him automatically a nutter.
Yeah, I was going to say he was a nutter.
Right, but because I played him like a true, stubborn, kind of ignorant dwarf, and people really, loved him, hated him with a passion of 1,000 white hot suns.
Yes.
Or your Yuri that you had made.
Yeah, Yuri. Yeah, whenever I played her in Final Fantasy, well, everyone actually liked her. She was super nice, but they
asked
always,
if she was special, like retarded or
she
something,
was,
and special.
Yeah. They treated her with, I felt like they treated her with, kind gloves.
Kid gloves.
Kid gloves, yeah. Because she was just, and what I wanted was I created her to be like Luna Lovegood. I wanted somebody that was kind of off the rocker, not all there. And in her backstory, if you knew it, you knew why she was that way. But I couldn't convey it well. So that was the problem.
Because at times Luna Lovegood, she's very useful, she's very smart, and your character was both of those things too, but sometimes she just came off a little, I don't think it came off exactly how you had intended it to.
No. So
keep trying, Strafae, you almost got it. And
I'm trying to send you some info for Wakichota. He wants to try to join in. So
go to rpmmmoradio.com/discord and just click the Discord link. It will automatically invite you. And just throw yourself in the caller waiting room after that, and Yunfei will make sure all your stuff is working. So yeah, if there's anybody else too, aside from just Wakichota, if you want to call in, rpmmmoradio.com/discord, click the Discord link, and just join us, and you'll be part of our Discord forever. Endeavor, endeavor, endeavor. So yeah, you've got to be prepared. You know, I tried to do a one once that was based off of like a Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man, and down to Jesus Christ.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man, and it fell completely flat. It just
People
he came.
hated him.
Yeah, well, and it happened all of once. I was like, nah, some things just can't be portrayed in text. You know. But yeah, you just have to be prepared for hiccups and things like that.
Jazz, Strafae, you guys ever had besides Ren? We knew Ren was a crazy.
Ren was definitely nuts. My Wood Elf, actually, the tune before that, suffered. He literally watched his parents being shamed his whole life, so he had an irrational hate of dark elves. I mean, irrational hate. That was the bane of his existence, pretty much. And it might have been his downfall had I actually played him out the rest of the way. But other than him, no, I guess Gormal pretends to be dumb, but he's really smart. Other than that, he's just a troll.
Yeah. Jazz, are you there, Jazz?
Yeah, I'm there.
Oh, okay.
I was just listening.
Oh.
No, a lot of my characters have one disorder or the other. I purposely set them up that way. I rolled them that way. And no, I don't always mean for them to, but when I list it as a possibility and then I roll dice, and you know how I roll. Mm-hmm. So I almost always ended up with something odd with each character. I think my two sanest tunes were Unali and Zarish in EQ. They didn't have anything wrong with them. They were pretty much probably mildly dissociative from their lives, but nothing just really off the charts. My craziest tune was a cross between, it was either Vaca on our bad days or Eli was really my craziest tune. Mm-hmm. Because I had to do a lot of research because I didn't know much about bipolar. And I wanted to roll an untreated bipolar alcoholic. And so I had to do and a vampire
why don't you
on top of that.
Go into down there where we have bipolar, because you added a good bit, and it's good stuff too. Yeah. So why don't you hit what the bipolar disorder is? It says a disorder associated with episodes of mood swings ranging from depressive lows to manic highs. There are variables to this where you can be unipolar and stuck in one swing or the other, sometimes for years. However, the most common form is mood swings that range from darkly depressed to violent to self, and then wildly social, charming, and completely lacking in mental and emotional stability and control in making responsible decisions, in dealing with life, sexual contact, financial choices, food binging, you name it. I mean, they can't, when they're manic, their decisions are basically ego-based, almost like a 2-year-old. They just kind of want it, so they do it. And they don't really even think about the consequences till later. Whereas when they're depressed, they tend to be like blackly depressed. Right, can't get out of bed, that kind of thing.
And so I researched and read everything I could find on bipolar before I played Eli. And then I read about what happens when people like that drink.
Yeah. And that caused that basically for almost everything except, drinking almost amplifies everything, really.
Yes. So it really just made him just this viciously dangerous old vampire crazy guy. And he was fun to play. And people found him amazingly charming, and they'd be like, it's scary how he can switch from one to the other. And I was like, yes, I did it right. Because he could be so charming and so interesting.
Is that Eli?
Yeah, and then the minute you crossed him, or the minute he had a bad day, man, he could flip on you and turn into Mr. Uber Vampire, rawr, and just kill you.
Rengots hated his guts, man, but he hated all vampires, but that one particularly, because of his childhood abuse, Ren's own childhood abuse. So, that was an interesting role play with that in those days.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. Like I said, you gotta, if you're gonna do something like that, you really do. Do yourself and the character a favor and justice. Do it. Just a little bit of research go a long way. Even just a a page or so of reading will really go. It's worth it just to save yourself the trouble and the time.
Even
later.
just reading a very general web page will help you form your character better and to understand what you're walking into. Because, in my opinion, only if you say my character is bipolar, and you instead just kind of wing it off of what you've heard and what stereotypes you think are involved, and you don't do any research, you're actually, not only are you going to come off as being an unbelievable character, but you're doing damage to the perceptions people have of the mentally ill. It's important, in my opinion, if you're going to play someone who's mentally ill, that you do the research enough to understand what it is you're playing.
Yeah, you don't want to perpetuate a false narrative.
Right. You want to make this realistic and to have people understand it, not to build people's understanding, even if it's in roleplay, to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And just saying, oh, he's an asshole because he's a bipolar.
Right,
No.
which is, it's right. It's like, and exactly. You want to do all that stuff justice. And it makes your character far more believable as well. That, and we'll have him on here in a sec. Wakichota said in the chat, don't fake a mental illness. And that's definitely for real life, but if you're going to play one out, it's perfectly willing. I mean, people write mental illnesses into characters all the time, but it was like, it's one of my favorite lines from Benjamin, oh shit, is it Benjamin Is it Cumberbatch? Did I get his name wrong? I'm just thinking of Ben from Honor. Not Benjamin. What's fucking Doctor Strange's name? Strafae.
Oh, that I don't remember.
I watched it, but he's
Cumberbatch.
Captain America or Thor. So
I think Cumberbatch is the correct.
It's Cumberbatch is his last name. I can't. I'm just totally.
Oh yeah,
on
you
his
mean
first
the
name.
new Khan?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
But Cumberbatch in when he plays as Sherlock Holmes at the BBC, he's people are like, you're a psychopath. He's like, actually, I'm a very high functioning sociopath. There's a difference, and you want to they were very good at making sure to put that in there and to do the right thing. Benedict Cumberbatch. Thank you, Jesus.
You. I was looking it up. Yeah. I had it.
I was thinking, honestly, Rohanar, I was thinking of your name, and I was like, and I have a cousin.
It's a B name.
So it's like, But, all right, let's go ahead and hit our call line here and see if we can get Wakichota. Are you there, Wakichota? You got yourself on mute.
Yep.
Oh, how's it going, Wakichota? I appreciate you calling RPMMORadio, even though your brother's like, hey, call in.
It's all good.
It's all good. So he said you're actually trained in kind of stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, am I wrong in what I was saying earlier about actual people when everybody's like, hey, it's the cool thing to have some sort of mental disorder that really doesn't affect anything, but it's neat for the sympathy, I guess, that you get from it. That's always a really, really bad thing, right?
It is, because it's a double-edged sword. The reason why it's a double-edged sword is if you play the pity party and you find yourself being diagnosed with this, no employer on the planet is going to want to have your services because you're too unbalanced and unstable. And it's kind of irreparable damage, because then that spreads all over the place, and then you have to go through 3 times the work just to get all of that removed. And once that's on your medical record, having a personality disorder printed on there is almost impossible to get rid of. It's possible, but then you have to go through a lot of legal action. And
a lot of money, too, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, you're pretty much ruining your own life of your own volition.
Right. Yeah.
What, attention?
Yeah, and I know a lot of people online. Like, I know some of them I do believe. I know there's people with the shades of autism, and it's good to know in advance, and and that's always well and good. But then there's some people that's just like, I don't think that you have what you think you have. It's like, well, I've never diagnosed, but I looked it up on Medical MD.
Most of the people who say that those kinds of line of thought is usually falling into the borderline or adjustment category. Rarely is it ever somewhere along the lines that they say that what they are. Now, I know some people do their own research, they end up finding out what they are, and they tell their doctor this is what they are, but again, a lot of these require meeting criteria. All of us have traits of everything in the DSM-5, but that doesn't mean you meet criteria.
Yeah, like everybody, everybody has mood swings, and we all have bad days. We all have days where we're super chipper and charming. That doesn't make you bipolar.
Absolutely.
It just means you could have, maybe you didn't get enough sleep, or maybe, life's a little hard on you right now, and,
Or you're a woman. Go ahead, throw it out there. I know one of you guys wants to.
Actually,
if you actually want to see if you are concrete proof that you are suffering this, you're going to need at least a minimum of 6 months of observation from a professional. You can't just throw that at somebody.
It takes a long time to get diagnosed, and there's a lot of tests and a lot of observation and a lot of discussion before they're ever going to put that on your record because, like you said, it's yours.
Right.
Once you have it.
I guess it's a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, because
it's really not a bad thing. I mean, it is, but
it can be if it's. It can be if it's so severe. It's one of those people that like, not to bring the real world into it, like the guy that went after that newspaper just this week. He clearly had some serious issues going back for over a decade. But he's not going to take himself in there and do that stuff. That's where that stuff can get really ugly, and you wish it could go faster, but because once you've been put on, and back me if I say anything wrong, Wakichota, I want you to correct me by all means, because stuff like that's too important for me to put out false information. But you don't want to just willy-nilly do like somebody with a rubber stamp like take a look at you for an hour and be like insane, okay, that you don't want that. It needs to be a process, and
and it's also important that like autism is not a mental disorder, and I know that people do try to play it that way. It's just something you are. It's the way your brain works.
There's also a lot of variables that are compounded on the fact that the patient also needs to help the doctor by obeying the prescription and obeying the treatment plan.
Right.
For this guy who just shut up the newspaper area, he probably wasn't following up on his treatment. He probably wasn't taking his medication as prescribed, which leads to him decompensating and all of his chemical levels in his brain going way through the roof or plummeting way through the floor, depending on what's going on with him. And that sets up so many catalytic events that pretty much forms in their head. It's a me versus them mentality.
And I can speak for that personally. That's how I lost my dad. He had a chemical imbalance because he was spraying. It was the dumbest thing. He was spraying webworms in a tree with a chemical pesticide that he shouldn't really have had. Wind shifted, it went into his face, and it actually, I think we're pretty sure that that's where it all started, because he was a perfectly normal person before that, but he slowly went. His chemical, they had him treated and things like that, but he started getting super paranoid. I was dating at the time, and I leaving the house, my parents always waved goodbye, and there was a time I look back and they were already gone, and I found out later from my mom that he had pulled her inside because he was sure that the police were out there and they were about to storm the house.
Yeah,
my dad he was a maintenance man at State Farm.
And that's exhibit A of missing one dose, and that paranoia kicks in, and
right.
They either need inpatient services, or the ER needs to hold him for a while.
Yeah, and we had him committed for a time, and the problem with him was that he would take the medication as prescribed, and he would start to feel fine. And then because he felt fine, I don't need the medication anymore.
Yep.
And this all led to, we had to have him committed. We got him released. He had gone, and eventually this led to his death because he had gone down with my Papa Allen, my grandpa, his dad, down to see my Uncle Matt down in Texas, and on their way back, he was having an episode because he hadn't had his had his medication, and he wasn't feeling good. And my grandpa had said, "Hold on, Paul, we're almost there, and then you can get out." He heard "you can get out" on a highway going 70 miles an hour. He opened the car, and he got out on the highway, and then he got hit by a truck because of his chemical imbalance and because the way, like exactly what you said. The medication wasn't prescribed as it was, and it was a horrible way to lose him. It was a terrible thing, but it was preventable.
And that's another good example of the honeymoon period, where they get to the point where I'm better now. I don't need this anymore. Actually, some of these, you can't stop medication. And while most psychiatric medication, we don't want you to take longer than 6 months because it permanently alters your brain, some people don't have a choice. You've got to take this for the rest of your life. Otherwise, you'll just get worse and worse.
Yeah, and fluctuating in... Now, correct me if is going off and on, off and on, off and on. I can't imagine that's actually better than just sticking with it either, because you never really get a chance to, it's...
Well, with most medications, you have to have it in your system for a certain amount of time for it to actually do good.
Right.
Minimum 2 weeks.
Yeah, because I know being diabetic, if they change my medicine, they're like,
it's an awful
give it a couple of weeks
Right.
before you start to feel something. And I'm like, okay.
The biggest issue with psychiatric medication is when people take it initially, they're expecting, as in today's day and age, they want that instant satisfaction, instant gratification, and instant results. And that's not the way it works, because every medication has its crest and its trough. And every time you're supposed to take the medication again, usually you're supposed to go in and get your blood drawn to see if you're at the therapeutic dose. If you're at the trough level when they draw your blood, they can see what level the medication is at and see whether or not it's effective, or if you're tolerating and it's not effective. Usually, if you're at your trough and it's at the therapeutic level, they keep your dose at that milligram where it is, and they leave it alone, and you come back in your follow-ups to see if you're improving or if you're decompensating. And if you're always staying at your crest, that's not always a good thing, because then you can have an imbalance in your chemicals within, and you can have even more issues. So that's why it's important to take your medication as prescribed and have regular follow-ups, even if it's blood pressure medication. Just simple stuff like that.
Yeah, and a lot of people, and it really is, I'm a forgetful person, and some people, you've just got to get on a schedule. If you actually have one of these diagnosed things and medication can't help you, for the love of God, believe your doctor, but at the same time, you also have to listen to your body. We've had that with, it's not a mental thing, but with Sib and her diabetes, she knows when it's like, all right, well, something's not right, so I need to either, ask them if I need to do this, or she herself knows, all right, I need to cut back a little bit. And she's done that, and it's like, all right, now I'm good again,
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what's fantastic about going to see your doctor is, if you're having side effects, you can have another medication prescribed. And I know people don't like taking pills, but some of these other medications can mitigate and almost eliminate these other side effects, so they work in tandem really well together.
Yeah.
So even though you don't like taking medications, it's your alternative is what you suffered and taking these pills and being okay and being independent.
Yeah.
I will say on that note, about 2 years ago, I was like, I'm done taking medicine. And Ashton's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, nope, I'm done. I'm just done. And I quit taking it for like a week, and then finally I was like, okay, I'm not done because I feel horrible. I'm back on it.
She felt awful. And I kept teasing her. I'm like, well, because it was diabetes. I was like, well, I hope you like, nubbing around the nubbing around the house without your feet and your hands, and you're just this little, because that's what happens. You get neuropathy, and then you have to have limbs chopped off. There's a smoker on my route that does that.
It is frustrating to have to take a lot of medication, but I also understand, it's you have
imperative.
To. If you have issues that require it, you have to do it.
And I know we don't really like this conversation the way it's gone, even though it's necessary.
Right.
Just remember what the very base definition of medicine's goal is. It's immortality. Look at our life expectancy. It has risen so much higher. We're not dying at 40 anymore.
Right.
We can treat
That is
almost
true.
anything that we have. So if you're having these down thoughts, that you're having these really, really bad moments, just go on the New England Journal of Medicine and look at what you can look at.
Yeah.
Call someone who works in the field.
Open
I'm
up
off duty right
to
now.
friends and family. There's people that would always, there's plenty of ways to get things that get it.
And I always tell my patients, you have at least one support system, one person that can lean on you and one person you can lean on them. If you have that, at least that one minimum person that you can have as a support system, you can overcome any obstacle as long as you stay with it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very good advice.
So,
Yes.
yeah, I'm glad I'm glad to have had you on. If I'd known this before, man, I probably would have just booked you for the whole thing. And oh, by the way, hey, Kishmas.
Oh, hi, Kishmas.
By the way, the Wakichota is my little brother, so yay, he does roleplay. He's a great role player.
Yeah,
and
so-
he's a filthy lizard, and sometimes he's a halfling. We don't know which one.
Well, nobody's perfect, you know. That's why he got into the medical field he did, because he knew he had problems.
I thought you were going to say that's because hair grew on my feet.
That too.
It can be more than one thing.
Right. There are comorbidities out there.
That's right. So, I mean, I'll just hold on to you here as long as you're willing to at this point.
I'm off duty, so I'm good.
Okay, cool. So would you agree that if someone is going to play a character that has a disorder, that you really do need to do it justice? Because, I mean, a lot of people, I know, we all know it's role play and it's this and that, but there is a certain, you want to do it right. You don't want to put out, I mean, you're right, you shouldn't be putting out false information just because it's good, you know, it's necessarily story driven. You should try to base some stuff in the reality of the actual disease itself. You know, if you're gonna play someone, for example, I'm sure you're familiar with, you know, with PTSD, you don't want to be the, you know, the well, what like the old sitcom things where a pot bangs and, you know, Jack Black goes into like, he starts diving for cover behind couches, and it's really hysterical and hilarious, but it's also not really, you know, that's satire. That's clearly, and most people with half a brain understand that's not necessarily how that's probably working out, you know.
Oh, absolutely agree. Here's one thing, just make sure you maintain your boundaries, and remember that if you do have varying levels of PTSD, some that's more severe, they won't talk about any of that stuff. They will react to certain stimuli that triggers a cognitive flashback. But if you do ask someone or roleplay with someone who's got PTSD and they're going in this outlandish storytelling time, like Old Man Henderson, that's probably not accurate, and you could probably just brush that person off.
Right.
Because most people with PTSD won't talk about that stuff. Most of the groups that I've had with deep exposure, cognitive behavioral therapy, if I can just get them to look off the floor and at me and tell me to like fly off, that's progress, because now they're talking.
Yeah.
It's funny, but most of the time they're staring through the floor and like they can see the other side of the planet, and that's it.
Yeah, you remember Billy, Seth? I mean, he did the same thing. Cat.
Yeah, and I was always worried about him.
He would only talk to you unless he was like super drunk, and then he would tell you stuff you didn't even want to know.
Right. Yeah, I made my my grandpa Mel, who's passed away. He was a Marine, World War II, and he never spoke about it. I mean, ever. I think I've said it once. We were watching Full Metal Jacket, and it was the scene where Private Pyle pops Arlie Ermy in the head and kills him, and then kills himself. And I was 8 or 9. Probably shouldn't have been watching that movie at 8 or 9. Just saying.
Probably not.
Thanks, bro.
But I had asked him, I was like, did you ever see that? And he just looked at me and was like, yes. And then he looked back at the TV, and that was it. And I'm like, oh, things not to ask Grandpa about the military.
Hey, I was a cool older brother. I want to hear it.
You actually saved my life on a couple occasions, so yeah.
But yeah, yeah. So that's good to know. That's, you know, that somebody of the actual field that, you know, I mean, we're all familiar with it, and trust me, as role players, we've dealt with people as, you know, schizophrenics and bipolars and, you know, narcissists. If we,
oh boy,
you know, but
lots of personal experience there.
Right? Yeah, I know. I've had to deal. There's this one lady I've known for it seems like forever. Oh my God, she has this ego on her, especially about her typing skills. Oh my God. She will just go on and on about how fast she is.
She's so fast. She's irritated with people. people need to type at her level. I mean, yeah, it's a for real deal.
Yeah, I've heard that she could type up to 1 million words a minute.
That's cute.
Isn't that right, Jazz?
What's wrong with Jazz?
Y'all need to leave me be.
Oh, we love you, narcissist.
Anybody want some Ativan?
But, well, yeah. Well, I appreciate you calling in. I don't want to hold you on here longer. You know, you only called in for a minute. I mean, unless you're willing to stay, I'll keep you here. I'll keep you. It's just up to you.
I'll be like a bad weed until you get rid of me.
Okay, that works.
Just know, he does play halfling.
I know.
I'm never letting you live this down. I'm just saying.
Being held back.
I will get everyone drunk.
Jum for everyone.
You don't even know what it is. Is it a root vegetable?
Tablet knows what Jum is.
That's what I thought. I always assumed it was a root vegetable.
Why do you think the brownie always stole it from us?
This we already kind of hit this one. What kind of experience do you need to play a character like this, if any? You probably don't need so much experience if you're going to play somebody that's a little off kilter. But you should do, like we said, you should do the research.
And it does depend on what kind of aspect you want to exhibit.
So,
is it going to be comedic? Is it going to be serious? Is it going to be guilt-ridden?
Right. Like, you can do a comedic, like Bargnar. I mean, he's a dwarf. He's comedic. You know, they're obviously they're fight crazy killers in a lot of ways. You know, but they're meant to be
an independent narcissist. They can just look at House.
Right. Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's another good one. Yeah.
Another good one. I mean, I was playing Trajan the other night, and he's an Imperial trooper, former Imperial trooper, and literally I play him like he has PTSD. You can ask Jazz. And I've been around dudes that had it. Like, I was around Billy a long time, so I do the mile-long stare, I do the stuff that Billy would do, and it actually makes your tune believable. If you've seen it and experienced it, you can kind of pull it off. But yeah, you definitely probably should research it.
Yeah,
I think it's really important. And I've said, you guys are going to get sick of me saying this, right? Which So if you don't have personal experience in mental illness, which I have my whole family tree to use.
Disclosure.
But if so, I have lots of personal experience with various issues. But
Jazz,
I'd
just
also,
a warning, he is a government agent. I'm just saying.
It doesn't bother me. I have a shrink, remember?
Oh, that's right.
Help me.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a shrink who probably really likes him. Anyway, but I did a lot of reading anyway, because even if you have experience, you may not have the correct knowledge. I mean, I had an idea of what bipolar was because of the people that I had in my family. And then I read about it and I was like, okay, well, that's a little different than what I thought it was, because people who have mental illnesses are not going to tell you the truth necessarily about what they're going through. And so I had a very different idea of what bipolar really was. I knew about the money and I knew about the sexual indiscretions. I knew that part, but I didn't know the deeper aspect of it and the sleeplessness and the nightmares and, all of that stuff that goes along with it. And all that research I did on those mental illnesses, now that I work in the social work field, has helped me help my clients who have these disorders, who are very happy that I'm not like blank stare at them when they're talking, because I don't understand. And I tell them, I don't have any real understanding of this, but I've read a lot about it and I understand what you're going through on that sense. And that helps. But when you're role-playing it, you need to try to remember that there could be somebody role-playing a perfectly normal person sitting next to you who's struggling with that disorder. So don't make light of it. And just remember that you could give somebody a complex because what you're saying is happening to this character that isn't real.
Another important thing to note is, since you've been working in this field a while, most of the people who are mentally ill and are not faking it, they want to get better because they don't know what's wrong. And when they find out what's wrong, they don't understand always. Some people do, some don't. So it's very important that you pay attention to these folks. And if you want a better experience and perspective, I recommend Inpatient. It gives you a lot of perspective and allows you to help.
Yeah.
I'm trying to decide where, because because I know it's about. I figure we'll just talk about the different at least some of the ones we have here, because it'll give you a good idea on how to play those, and also, like I said, to maybe understand when somebody, like if somebody in your guild says, hey, I have this, or I'm not naming names, but we know a few people with autism and things like that. And
Yes.
I've known about it for years and years, and I've never, I'm always understanding. I have no problem, and I know the autism scale is like is like a fucking
Enormous.
rainbow,
Yeah.
it not a rainbow that you see in the sky. I'm talking like a rainbow in Photoshop. It's just a multitude of colors from
Yes.
everywhere.
Ranging from like MR to all the way to Savant, and it's
Right.
incredible.
Yeah.
So one of the other ones we had on here was schizophrenia, because that's one you hear about all the time. You're schizo, you're schizophrenic.
And a pet peeve of mine, the way that they're represented is really hard for
In
people who
movies
have
and
it.
television, you mean?
Yeah.
Or in game
role
as
play,
well.
in role play as well, people play it a certain way, and like we had a girl in my guild in Q2 that had it, told me in confidence, and she wasn't ashamed of it or anything.
She
but
was just letting you
told me.
know.
Yeah, because she can get odd sometimes
Schizophrenic?
and wanted me to know, and she was
Right.
an officer, so I was like, okay, well that's fine. I don't mind, but thank you for telling me. And when she had a bad day, she talked to me. And
That's
one day somebody was portraying a schizophrenic in a role play situation, and she flipped out. I mean, she went completely triggered. And I had her phone. I called her and I talked to her. And I talked her down, and I explained that I said, first of all, she thought everybody knew. That she thought that this was a
As a
dig at
direct
her.
punch at her.
Right. And I was like, nobody knows unless you've told them. And I
Yeah.
certainly haven't told
Right.
anybody. So you need to take a deep breath and calm down. But it made a point, I think, even to me with some of the role play that I've done of mentally ill people, that you never know
Right.
Yep.
how the person on the other side of the screen is going to take what you're
And that is one thing you have to be careful for. If you're doing something like that, and somebody comes out like, hey, that's, don't fly off the handle and be like, well, I was just role playing, To them, it might not be, they probably at some level understand that, but flying off at the handle back at them isn't going to help the situation. One of the two of you has to stay calm and be like, listen, I understand. Okay, I apologize. It's not my intent, but it is just role play, and I'm not poking fun at you personally. It's just the way this character is.
In the words of Unify, they flip their burgers.
Right.
Yeah.
Flip their burgers.
I love
And
that
it's-
line.
yeah.
One of the
And
main
I
things is
did-
they can't see faces, and if they can't see
Yeah.
faces, they don't know if the person's being serious or not. And it's
And it's
always a
text,
person.
and a text on top of that. You can't even hear their voice. It's just text. So that makes
Yeah.
it even worse. Let's go real quick. What we have here in Wakichota, if you have anything to add, feel free. For schizophrenia, we have that it's a disorder that affects a person's ability to think, feel, and behave clearly. This is a huge disorder with more variables than constants, but one common part of schizophrenia is disordered life and struggles to deal with the emotional context and anxiety of life, and that they tend to be shut-ins, non-social in normal settings, and non-social. Okay, I got that right. And even with proper medication, struggle to feel like they fit in with the average daily life.
More or less.
Yeah, more. It's the Wikipedia, Google, short version without going into the 14 paragraphs after that.
Right. Well,
would
I
you-
added
Right,
in my
and you add,
training.
Jazz added a
Yeah.
bunch of. I did the very basics, and she added a bunch of good stuff on here. So if you're gonna play a schizophrenic, there's nothing wrong with that. Just
But don't just pick some movie you thought was great.
right.
Don't do any
Don't
research.
pick something like I said with Jack Black where he was or what was that?
Sybil.
Or Sybil, or what was the M. Night Shyamalan one, Split, the
Yeah.
multiple personality disorder. Although if you're playing a character with multiple personalities, you're probably already lost half your audience, I'm going to be honest.
So
And I
since
think
we
the
do have the
only
pro,
actual case study of multiple personality was like in the 70s, and even that
Yeah.
was dubious at best.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
It has
since we do
since
have
been-
the pro, what can you? How would you diagnose Shea Gorath?
As a bad Irish ripoff of the Joker.
Fun fact: that's Cavill's favorite Daedric Lord, I believe.
Oh, really?
One cannot accurately diagnose
everything. The mad
Very
god.
good.
But as close as you can, he would be the only unique example of a multiple personality disorder where the personalities actually share memory.
Oh, Lord.
And that's impossible, so.
Right, so yeah, but it sure makes for a fun character.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so, like we said, if role-playing...
And that's if all the multiple personalities get along with each other.
Right, it's not that they're not fighting like they did in Split, which was a fun movie, and I am actually looking forward to Glass, which is going to bring that universe and movie over with Unbreakable, which is completely off topic, but I'm actually looking forward to that because I loved Unbreakable. It was one of my favorite superhero movies that's not really a superhero movie.
Huh?
Unbreakable? Did you see Unbreakable?
It took too long to build up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, that's what I like. I mean, it's an M. Night Shyamalan movie. It's one of my favorites because I've watched it once, maybe twice, and I don't think I'll ever need to see it again.
Yeah, it's one of those movies. I'll reserve judgment because Hollywood's doing some sequels that are way too far apart. Most recently, Incredibles. Yeah. And it came out well, so hopefully this third movie will come out good.
We haven't gone to see that yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing that. But Incredibles.
There's one plot hole, but I won't talk about it.
Okay, yeah, because we haven't seen that yet. The other one we had... actually, I wanted to ask you, one thing we brought up earlier was people that play assassins. If you've decided to play an assassin, you've already decided to play a character that's clearly mentally unstable already on some aspect, right?
Usually that will fall under the cluster A or cluster C personality disorders.
Not for me. Obviously, I know what the cluster A and cluster C personalities, but for the listeners that might be unfamiliar, unlike you and me, obviously, and the rest of the crew, what would you describe what a cluster A and cluster C is?
So you have cluster A, B, and C. A is your weird ones, and B is your wild ones, and C is your wimpy ones. Your wimpy ones are yours that are like avoidant, antisocial, things like that. And your weird ones are anything from schizophreniform, schizoid, schizophrenia, some kind of psychotic with comorbidities or other traits of personality disorders. And usually assassins, we almost always exclusively work alone. So that's usually a very controlled antisocial with psychotic features, because most psychopaths are very meticulous. However, sociopaths are intelligent as well. Psychopaths and sociopaths are very intelligent. However, the difference is psychopaths are meticulous and sociopaths aren't. For example, maybe the person who shot up the newspaper could have been, having traits of sociopathy. Well, yeah, he obviously was not meticulous about it. He didn't pull a Jack the Ripper and leave no traces, so yeah, they caught him.
Right.
And most assassins are very meticulous at what they do.
Right. Yeah, and we actually have... I'm just going to hit the difference between psychopathy and sociopathy, because a lot of them are, like I said earlier, they're on the same highway. It's just at different heights and intensities, it seems like, that you go from. So that's... Yeah, I was curious about that, because really, if you're playing as somebody that kills for money and probably feels very little, John Wick, like a John Wick type character, and all the people that are in that movie. I mean, those people clearly have some serious fucking issues, I mean, they're so nonchalant. I mean, don't get me wrong, fucking badasses, every single one of them, but seriously, they got some serious fucking problems with them. So, and one of the other ones here, too, that I don't see it role played out a lot, which, in a fantasy setting kind of makes sense, but your character could have that. And again, this is something that seems to be more and more widespread. I don't know if it's an environmental factor with autism or that the I think it seems to me more like the diagnoses, whatever, for it just becomes it's more well known than it used to be. You know, instead of just throwing them in a nut house, you know, without, you know, or that they're possessed by the devil. You know, we've actually got a way of being like, oh yeah, okay, they're autistic instead. So with autism, it's more of a serious development disorder that impairs the ability to communicate and interact. Jazz edition. You can be high functioning, low functioning, and everything in between. The most common attribute shared by autistic people is struggling with social cues, struggling to comprehend social conversations where words are implied and not meant. I know may not be autistic, but I do that all the freaking time. And the inability to stop focusing on something once focused on. So like subject transition, like super, you focus on one thing, you know it's not important, can't get away from it. It's all you think about for the next couple of days.
It becomes
like
an item of obsession.
Yeah.
They become obsessed.
Okay. And autistic people tend to be very good at one thing and know a lot about that one thing. Then there are those who are high functionings have, you know, like Asperger's or nonverbal learning disorder, to name a few. I will say, I've met a lot of these people at conventions.
Yeah.
You know, it can be a little uncomfortable. It's the ones that, you know, they're so focused in on their thing that they love, Star Trek or Star Wars or whatever it is, you know, comics. And when they start talking to you out of the blue, it's just like, you cannot get away from it.
You know instantly. You find those people at Ren fairs. You find them at Comic-Con.
Ren fairs is a good one, yes.
Heck, you find them in your guild sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a fine line to draw there between autism and Asperger's. Because someone with Asperger's, if you assign them one task, I guarantee you they will never do it wrong as long as they have that one task and only that task to do.
I agree, because there's a dude who goes to church with us. I'm not going to name him. He's a good guy. I started a Fallout pen and paper with him to link it to your game, Cab. And he was so focused on his Enclave character and like the backstory I gave him. He literally not only did that, he drew out the airship, made sure the measurements were on it, freaking did the tonnage, did the firepower, I mean, I'm not kidding you, dude. I mean, down to the bolts and the deck plates. Then he could not understand why
he went Tom Clancy
over, like,
on
the
it,
next
right?
Weekend. I was like, bro, I don't have time to drive 30 minutes up there. Let's plan it. But it was like he was always like, "We're gonna roleplay. We're gonna roleplay." By the way, I had this paper. The engine speed is point. I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm gonna give this guy some loot when we finally played. All this, and he's straight Asperger's, straight just like he's got he's got horse blinders on, and it's whatever he's focusing on. It's like a Death Star beam, and nothing else outside of that beam exists.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, Yudface, I wasn't going to say anything, but since you put it, Yudface does have Asperger's. She's one of the people I was talking about with autism, but she was told that it's not called that anymore. Is that true? I guess by her doctor, maybe?
It depends. It's some doctors still, like, my shrink uses new terms I've never heard before.
See, they're just making shit up now.
No, it's just
always
like,
updates.
Is it because... Is it
And
what I was saying, that spectrum, they keep focusing in more and more, and like, okay, so there's a branch here, there's a branch here. So this Asperger's used to be the general term. Now they're like, okay, well, now there's 5 or 6 branches inside that. So they're using new ones.
Here's some insight.
Okay.
And we used to have a DSM-4, and in the DSM-5, a lot of these conditions have been consolidated into others. And it's to make it a more accurate diagnosis, and sometimes it doesn't always fit. And depending on the location and the fellowship the doctors are working in and what the hospital guidelines allow, there's so many variables. So some could, some couldn't. Some try to find a varying diagnosis, and usually will stick you with a provisional diagnosis before they can figure out and fine-tune everything else they can rule out and figure out what's best for you.
Yeah.
Because not everybody is alike.
Exactly.
No. And I will say, too, people out there, science is not always fact. Science is an evolution of facts.
Always changing and growing. That's
Right.
why it's science.
You know, it's people always, they'll point to something scientific and be like, this is the way it is. right
Yeah,
now.
until they discover something more about the brain,
it's-
or they learn about a new component of the brain, and then things change.
Especially in things like psychology, I would imagine, you know, I mean, how many times, to use the example, how many times have eggs been something that will kill the entire population of the human race? Or be the power food everyone should eat in breakfast for the morning, you know? It's, you know, science is not, it's, you know, there are some incontrovertible facts. Gravity. It's a thing. Unless
wait till they call it something
unless
else.
It's not, because you're going past the speed of light, in which case apparently then it does, you know, there's no telling, you know.
Well, that's like when I was 15, 16, they diagnosed me with multi-level dyslexia. And that's what I was told I had. And nobody offered any options. So I was like, okay. And I went on with my life. They were a little bit amazed that I could read 1,000 words a minute. And they were just like, you speed read and no one's taught you. And you type really fast and no one taught you. But you don't read well, because I reverse letters, numbers, and I talk, which is why I pause when I talk. And so what I hear, what I see, and what I speak gets jumbled up.
Because your brain is moving faster than your words can form.
Right.
That's
and so
not too uncommon, because one of our supervisors actually has, we have a fancy term for it, but he does have a photographic memory. And whenever we have worked with him, he will read one page, and even if we're chapters ahead and someone doesn't understand, he recites it word from word from memory, and he doesn't even
I used to have an eidetic memory, but I had a car accident and removed it.
You can train that. You can train that back.
I'm working on it. I went from 170 IQ to 105 IQ to 148, which IQ really doesn't matter anymore. But that's how they measure that I'm getting better. Anyway, the point being is when I had my kids, they were starting to have some problems, and I took them in because I was homeschooling them, and it felt a little bit like I was hitting myself with a hammer in the head constantly when I was trying to teach them, and it was starting to get really annoying, so I took them in and had them evaluated. And they said, well, they have nonverbal learning disorder, and I had never heard of that before, and I was like, eh? And he's like, well, basically, things get jumbled up with what they read, what they hear, and what they say.
Got a crossword puzzle in your head.
And I'm like, oh, they changed the name of it. That's what I have. Oh, great. I gave it to my kids. Fan-fucking-tastic. And
reminds me of sitting in fourth grade math class, and the teacher's up there doing a problem on the board, and everybody's staring and nodding, and I'm staring, and the only thing, if you actually could see what was in my brain, it was the Corellian Corvette door blowing up and stormtroopers running through, tearing up the rest.
Yeah.
And I'm just nodding like, yeah, that's the thing.
But it doesn't mean anything, because in the end you have to learn to deal with it anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just something that they told my son that he had, and my older biological child has, and my middle boy has ADHD, and they are, they have to learn how to handle it, and I'm working with them. But it was incredibly frustrating, which is why they're in public school now.
Yeah.
So I was not prepared to do that.
Yeah, and I will say this, for everybody out there, this, a crew included, this episode clearly is probably going to go a little long, because we still have actually quite a bit, and I think it's important. So if anybody needs to bum out, that's cool. I'll understand, because I only ask for 2 hours of your time, free of charge every week anyway.
Only 2 hours.
Only the 2 hours. So if you have to go, but there's still a little ways to go through this, because we took a little long to get through our role play and
about
stuff.
To get fresh buffs. I'm still grinding Jet XP. I'm good to go, boss.
All right. And I know Kishmas, you're still in there, so feel free to you could jump in anytime, buddy. I know you're.
This isn't my field of study, so I'm just observing and learning.
Okay. Well,
that's it's not your.
Yeah. See, like me, it may not be your entire field of study, but you're familiar with it. You're an officer, so you have to be.
Yep.
So one of the other things here too that we have on here and this is one I would say a lot of roleplay characters actually do. It's worked out well for the president apparently. Narcissistic personality disorder.
You're gonna get shot one day, you know that, right?
Me? Who would shoot me?
Me.
I'm loved. Well, yeah, you don't count. Because everybody knows.
Good to know.
Everybody knows I am the best there is. Everybody says so. I'm amazing. I'm fantastic. I'm spectacular in every way.
He's really the Joker. He's got a lot of personalities.
That's right. No, all joking aside, I think every person in politics is a narcissist at their base level, but that's just me. But with narcissism, it involves a pattern of, most people know this one in one way, shape, or form or the other, but it involves a pattern of self-centered, arrogant thinking and behavior, a lack of empathy and consideration for others, and an excessive need for admiration, because I'm the best, and my humility is without compare. Others often describe people with narcissistic personality disorder as cocky, manipulative, selfish, patronizing, and demanding. And there's like I said, there's several different kinds of narcissism. This is a jazz addendum. But there's different levels of it. There's the crazy, like, way out there, and then there's, some people all have, I think, no, I guess people that aren't at least, I don't know, I think everybody has to be a little narcissistic. I mean, everybody here, I mean, we're like, hey, we're role players, let's jump on a podcast. A little narcissism involved, but we do an amazing job, a fantastic job, a wonderful job.
I just thought it was cool that you asked me to be on it. I was like, oh, cool, that sounds neat.
Well, I also think there's a line between self-satisfaction.
There is, yes.
There is. There's self-care and self-satisfaction, and then there's someone who cannot function without constant attention.
Right. Yeah. And I'll be honest, anytime everybody says, oh, hey, I love your show, I don't get me wrong, I love hearing it. Makes me extremely uncomfortable because it's praise, and I don't ever know what to do with that.
Yeah, same.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Wait, what?
Not touching it. Not touching that one.
Stepping away.
Slowly back away from the lube.
Oh, Kishmas.
This is what I get for asking him to speak up. It's my fault.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh, but so there are several kinds of narcissists. And again, Wakichota correct. So this is the jazz part, so you have to have a conversation with her. The most common being, and those of NPD, and those with the traits but not the disorder, are more commonly malignant narcissists who are toxic to the point of destroying the relationships of those around them, and who are often seen or believed to be kind of emotional or energy vampires, i.e. they suck the life out of the people in their circle of power until the person loses the ability to fight back or flees and never returns.
Yeah, that sounds like EverQuest 2. I mean, what? Yeah, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, I think we've known a few people like that.
I think honestly they're attracted to roleplay. I think that's why we see so many of them.
Because they can be what they want to be without people actually knowing who they are.
The shrink is trying to talk. What do you got to say?
Emotional vampires, that's a combination of two different traits. That's their grandiose sense of self-importance, and they believe that they are special and unique. And like psychopaths can recognize another psychopath. Narcissists, when they see other people getting a little bit of attention or appreciation or some kind of attention showing that they did something, they have to go and overrule it.
Yes.
They have to destroy it and bring there. It's what I've been calling it spotlight role play, but in a way it's a narcissistic thing where the attention has to be on them, and if somebody else starts to get like that spotlight starts to shift just a little bit.
Now, if they do that and they try to get the spotlight all the time, they're dangerously falling into histrionic personality disorder where they absolutely lose it if they're not the center of attention.
Gee, EverQuest 2 is haunting me.
So you had, Strafae, you had this guy in your pocket the whole time, and you had this much problem with this person?
Oh, trust me. Oh, trust me.
How did you not come to him and like, okay, so there's this chick I know, and here's what she's doing. He'd have been like, oh, yeah, dude, back away from that slowly.
Trust me. He knows. I've been trolled without end. It's trollery unending.
Okay, good.
Okay, I have a quick question for Wakichota. You mentioned that psychopaths usually recognize their own or another psychopath.
So psychopaths are I have yet to see this otherwise. Almost always a psychopath is a master of imitating emotions because they lack empathy. They're completely apathetic. Some psychopaths are actually decent people who don't want to be seen as monsters, but other psychopaths and, corporations at very high levels of administration and authority will recognize another psychopath and they won't say anything. They won't bring it out in the light. They will just sabotage each other until one is gone.
Okay. That's what I was curious about, how they would react to each other. What kind of reaction would that cause?
So let's say we have 5 people, right?
Uh-huh.
And let's say Ash and I are psychopaths. We will recognize everyone's emotions and we'll imitate everybody else. So we will seem completely normal, even very warm and welcoming and personable. However, there will be stuff behind the scenes. There will be power plays, like in politics, and one of us is going down. That's just the way psychopaths work.
It's like
it's like having 2 great white sharks in a kiddie pool. It doesn't work.
It's like the TV show Dexter, or
exactly.
And he was a very that one was very, very well done. I enjoyed that.
There can only be one.
Right, and when he would fight, there was Moriarty from Sherlock Holmes,
now,
main villain.
Were Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty psychopaths?
I think Moriarty was a psychopath, and as they
Moriarty
said,
was a psychopath.
Yes, he definitely was.
Holmes
I'm saying is Sherlock.
And Holmes was a sociopath, or a high. No, they called him in the show, high functioning sociopath, because he wanted to do good. He knew how to do good. He was just really bad at caring. If he said things that upset people, and he also had a coke addiction.
Okay, I have one other question that kind of runs into my other question. Are a lot of these mental things, would they be able to recognize another, like not just psychopath, but what was some of the other ones?
Bipolar.
No. Bipolar.
Well,
could they tell if they're like somebody else? Do they recognize their own?
Most people with bipolar 1 or bipolar 2 will recognize that other people who have the same diagnosis will be the greatest people in the world. They're their best friend, and they've known each other for like 3 days. That's how you know they both probably share a similar diagnosis. They may not know they share the diagnosis, but that's how you can tell from a third-party point.
They see something in the other person. And yes,
can they recognize each other is the question.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, and the kid from Death Note, that guy was definitely on that scale.
That's kind of a scary dynamic, because when you have a bunch of patients in an environment where they recognize they all share similar principles, values, and beliefs, and they all share a similar diagnosis, it can be very similar to mixing white phosphorus and oxygen.
Right.
Whether it's an actual incredible reaction or someone does one thing and they're the enemies forever.
So Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and one thing too, we'll go ahead and go into we'll do the psychopathy and sociopathy and the difference between them. One thing too that I think we've talked about it. We learned it from Lore. He's had so many shows done to it, but where these originated from, as far as I know, these words were created specifically for the serial murderer H.H. Holmes up in Chicago, who is best known for his murder house, the murder castle. And he was definitely, he's where they came up with psychopathy specifically for him. He was charming. He loved women. He managed to talk. He could sweet talk. Like what they said in Tommy Boy. He could talk a woman in white gloves to hold a ketchup popsicle. There was nothing he couldn't do. But he had created an entire house where he could watch murder people, hide the bodies. He was great at insurance scams. He was, for psychopaths, they are usually highly intelligent from everything I've seen. They don't feel emotion like you and I or anybody else could. It's hard to, those ones are very, very hard to play, I think, because we feel emotions. I can't imagine, doing something to somebody like that and not feeling something. It's really hard, I would think, for an average, normal, even halfway adjusted person to play a really good psychopath psychopath, especially in the moment. Like, writing about one is one thing, but playing one in the moment, especially if you're going to play one like a Dexter, where they are able to fully mimic the emotions of people around them. You know, they're just monkeying it. It's just acting ability at that point.
I'm pretty sure a good social worker, psychiatrist, psychologist that actually visited the office that Dexter worked in would have some serious red flags and would have brought up the supervisor a long time ago, because he still shows traits that he's slow to catch on. His reactivity to certain experiences and certain news is not the same as most people who are in tune with their emotions or well balanced.
Yeah. And they just, that's one of those things. I mean, the show, I never finished all of it. I really need to go back and finish that. But I think I watched the first 2 seasons. It was really, really well done. And I you know, it's part of what made me, you know, look up more on that. This episode actually comes from Sib, which is fun, you know, ironic, because she wanted to do kind of mad scientist, and I was like, well, what do you mean by that? And she's like, well, you know, kind of like crazy people. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's actually a really, really good one, because, you know, playing the mad scientist or the eccentric or the nobles is another one. If you're playing a noble, narcissism definitely is probably going to come into play with a noble, you know. But
do you think you could actually play a psychopath in a game?
I would say no.
That's what I was going to say.
Not without it being a caricature.
The reason why is psychopaths have such a pervasive pattern of manipulation that they will use every single emotion, every single strategy, every single behavior that they know about a person to get what they want. They're master manipulators. Like you said, Ashen, convincing a girl to hold a spoon or catch a popsicle. He could do anything. Psychopaths are that charismatic and manipulative because they find out and they study and they figure out how a person works so that they not only can stay under the radar, but so they can manipulate that person to their own ends.
Yeah.
And having to do that 24/7, role-playing that would literally tear you apart.
Yeah, I just couldn't see how you could. Because you'd have to have the other players, I don't think would allow it.
You wouldn't be able to really tell them. Well, if you told them about it, obviously, then they would be, you know, they would probably.
They might play along.
I would say if they wanted to play a psychopath with a comorbidity that was more prevalent than the psychopathy, that could probably work. But that's one of those things that if you role play, you're destroying the guild. You are going to destroy.
You're going to tear everything apart around you.
Yeah, when that honesty comes out at the end, the guild master finds out, you're gone. Yeah. And everyone else is going to leave because the guild master is going to be assumed they knew about this the whole time, and that's not good.
Yeah.
No.
I've been there.
Right, and
like that.
And that's one of the reasons we want to come up with this, because I'm going to be honest, Strafae, the person you were quote unquote friends with for the longest time, I would classify her as a psychopath, because the way, and I've seen a few others. There's actually a recent story that we're going to talk at episode 51 over for Final Fantasy XIV players, the Moogle post. Apparently, it kind of got caught up in the hashtag #MeToo thing, but I don't think he's a psychopath to that extent. I mean, but there was a guy that was running that thing, and it was kind of it was some fan site thing. Like, they did fake newspapers and things like that. But he had writers and stuff, and he would get the women to. He was very charming. Apparently, he hit one up early on that she was in a bad place in her life, and he was giving her attention, and you know, it kind of became a relationship like. But he would get pictures from them, and then he started to get to the point. Strafae, this is what reminded me with you when. Ever they would talk to other men, he would get pissed off. He'd call them a slut and things like this, and then he'd apologize and it'd be all good. And then if other people, and then as people started, he did this to other people as well. He threatened that, you know, he'll send the nudes. By the way, people, don't send nudes to people you only know online.
No.
Please, God, stop doing that.
But he threatened to put those out there if unless you're Kishmis, then by all means.
Who wants them?
But
who wants them?
No, but you're right, because I cared. The person knew I cared, and that was being used. I think it was being used because she was like soul sucking the attention out of me. And the minute I talked to anybody, it was the same deal you described.
Right. And
these crazy hate tales. And the minute I called her out on it, she'd get quiet for all of like an hour or less, and they would start again.
That falls more along the lines of borderline personality disorder, where you are either with them or against them. And as soon as you are against them, you are against them forever. You can never get that back.
Only the Sith deals in absolutes.
Of course, you realize this means war. Right. But yeah, so this is that's one where I'm going to, it just kind of came out over the last week or so. I'm going to give it another, we already obviously have 50 planned. We already had this one planned. So I'm thinking we might devote an entire episode on 51 to that story and see what shakes out of it. Because it was also a guild thing. There are some amazing guild leaders. There's people, like Sibh'Bae. There's people like Jazz that really, really do try, and they're really not trying to, they do manipulate things, but they're doing it because that's what you do as a guild leader. You try to manipulate things so that everything runs smoothly. Everything's being manipulated. But then there are those that it's all for personal glory and what you can do for them. And so that's one that I think is going to deserve, I'm really curious to see what shakes out on that, because it's a good warning to anybody, especially you women out there, but also like with Strafae, with men, because anybody can be in a position where you think this person is your friend, and nobody, am I wrong, Wakichota, that for the most part, people don't want to think the worst of other people. They, especially around here, we try to give people the benefit of the doubt more often than not, and probably often when all evidence points to the fact that you should really stop giving them the benefit of the doubt.
That's usually the aspect and perspective of a mentally healthy person, yes.
Okay. Because, you don't understand that. Like me personally, I can't imagine trying to Jazz you, for example, manipulate you to a point like, our characters are in a relationship, and you talk to Strafae and Kishmis, and then after this, quietly, I'm like, how dare you fucking talk to them? I swear to God, I'm going to tell everybody about your family. I'm going to tell them where you live. Like, what's his face that did that to you?
I was going to say,
exactly.
You mean the guy that did that to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
But see, and that's exactly
He that shall not be named.
Right.
Ever.
But that's that kind of thing. And it does happen in games. But
you have to be aware, and you have to be watchful, because these people that do this, that set you up and gaslight you and pull you in, and then it's all your fault. And I mean, all of that stuff is, for a normal person, they don't see it coming.
Right.
At all.
Yeah, because they in their mind, it's the same thing. Everybody asks, like I said, after every major thing that bad happens, how could you do something like that? It's because you're a normal, sane person. You're not going to figure it out.
Yes.
And even when you find the motivation, you're going to be like, well, that's just dumb.
And when you're running a guild, one of the things that I've told all my officers, and I'm sure all of you have remembered me saying this at one point or another for those that are officers, you can't make sense of somebody who is functioning at a level of mental illness, because they're not necessarily making sense. So if you try, you're going to drive yourself crazy. So instead of trying to say, but why did they do this? What could they possibly... No, don't go down that road. Nothing is there but pain and a headache.
Right.
Don't walk down that road, and that's been hard for me, because I am very single-minded when it comes to understanding.
Right. Yeah, I just say I like understanding things.
Yeah. I want to know why.
Walk down that road. You either fall tumbling into sharp rocks, or you get dragged down.
Yes, and I had to learn that. That was one of the biggest lessons that I learned in running the guild, that probably helped me the most in real life and dealing with mental illness in general, is that you can't. You need to just accept that it is, and then keep moving. And that's why with this person that we've mentioned, eventually I got to the point, because she was a friend of mine too. She did the same thing to me she did to Stray. It wasn't just him.
Yeah.
She set
she did it. She's still doing it to this day to other people as well.
I did what we call burn.
Scorched earth.
I scorched earth her. I removed her off of every platform I have.
And that's the thing,
whoosh,
too.
And then I finally got silence.
After Strafae, what did she do? She moved on to their next victim.
Yep.
You know, she had, because she was also very charming at times, she had a list of them. You know, she had a whole fleet of people following behind her like little ducklings. And I guarantee you, probably by this point, I doubt there's very many of them that haven't been run over by a car because she put them out in front of the road, you know? Mm-hmm. Poor duckies.
Nope. And my grandma taught me about that. She said, liars and thieves never change. They just change targets.
Yeah.
And she told that to me my whole life, and I finally understand what she was trying to tell me.
And roleplay and MMOs, they've definitely helped me understand a lot of this, because, I mean, you're a lot more likely to, people open up a lot more and show a lot more of their colors online than you are going to.
Well, because they're safe.
In your day-to-day basis. And also,
you're behind that protective screen, man.
Yeah, well, and you only can know so many people in real life.
The screen of justice. The screen of obscurity.
There's always people who are presenting you with an image that may not even be real, and that was another hard lesson.
Right.
And, that's someone who had the same 10-year-old daughter for 5 years. And one day
pay no attention to the man behind the computer screen.
The child had never aged.
Right.
And see,
5 years. And I was like, wait a minute.
Of poor parenting right there. Because if they don't have that duality of love where it's discipline and love or encouragement, they end up being like this in today's society.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a quick question. Again, I know I've got lots of questions about this topic because I just don't know much about it.
Never stop asking.
Okay, I know the person you guys were talking about, she was young.
She's not that young.
Well,
she's pushing 30-ish now, darling.
She was younger when
she was 25 or 20, I guess. So yes.
Do you think, as she gets older, can she change?
Of course she can. She can get help. She can
something that she's stuck with.
Here's the thing that Jazz is not going to say at this moment. She's being therapeutic, so I'm definitely applauding her for this. But I'm angry enlisted guy, so I'm not gonna bullshit you with anything. People need to want to change. Mm-hmm. If they don't want to, they will not change.
And that is 100% true.
And most mentally ill folks, those mental disorders will usually manifest from ages 16 to 25, and heightened levels of stress for long periods of time can rapidly increase the onset of these disorders.
Yeah, and exacerbate it.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, if you drug addicts and alcoholics and things like that, you can care, you can tell them you love them, you can give them all the help that they could possibly need until the day they're ready to quit. Doesn't make a damn bit of difference.
Yeah, and that's something that you deal with regardless. I mean, like, I'm in social work, and half my clients, like one in particular, that quit smoking for me, which I knew wasn't going to work, but she's COPD, she's dying of various disorders. She's
got to hit rock bottom, man.
And she needed to stop smoking, and so we got her into a position where she agreed to do it, and she stopped. Well, then she started up again, and now she's stopping again because some guy she's dating wants her to.
No.
So it's still not going to work. But that first moment when I realized she was smoking again was really hard for me as a caregiver, because she was lying to me about it because she knew I'd be upset. Not mad, because I don't get mad at my clients. They're my friends, basically, in many ways. I don't get mad, but she knew I'd be disappointed. And
but it's that cluster C trait where they fear disappointment.
Yes, she's terrified that I'm going to stop being her friend, and I'm going to stop. Never mind the whole idea that, I work for somebody and I'm assigned to her. But she's one of those people that has become very important to me, and I've kind of blown past the boundary because we're very good friends. And I've helped her as much as I can. And I told her the other night when she was having problems and she wanted me to rescue her. And I said, honey, I am your friend. I don't have the money to help you, so I'm not going to. But even if I did, I wasn't going to.
And it hurts the most when you see a promising patient or client have so much progress, and then they just...
She changed her whole life, and then she just... And it's been really hard. but she's getting her feet back under her again just for the wrong reasons, which means it's going to happen again.
She'll trip up again eventually.
Right. It'll happen again because it's for the wrong reason.
So this brings me back to the honeymoon period, where
Yes.
period of abuse, and immediately after that, they want to make sure the person feels safe. They give them assurances. They promise them. They buy them gifts.
I love you. I'm so sorry. I just, you know how you get.
Yep. And then once they get that, then they wait an undefined time. It's different for everyone. And that abuse comes right back.
Right. Yep. Look what you made me do, right, Sib?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Funny story. I was tickling him, and he grabbed my thumb and tried to rip it off. And he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Look what you made me do."
I panic. I hate being tickled, and her thumb was the only thing there that I could grab and like pull away. So I was
Actually, the thumb trick only works on yourself.
Go on.
But I instantly thought of the worst thing that someone could say, like when you just hurt somebody, is like, "Look what you made me do."
There you go.
You know.
I died laughing. I was like, "Oh my gosh."
But yeah, I don't like being tickled.
So when you're making characters, it's important to remember all of these.
Right. Yeah.
Because these things will still happen, but at the same time, it's also important to know this because these people are in your guild with you, and this stuff is actually happening.
Yeah. A lot of times those guys got to hit rock bottom before they decide, I really kind of need to change.
Yeah. And I'll go over this real quick too, just to make sure we get the difference between the psychopath and the sociopath. That, as we were saying, the psychopaths, they're often, the two are almost interchangeable a lot in society, even though it's actually not. There's a very big difference, as like Wakichota was saying. The psychopath, they're traditionally, it's characterized by somewhat antisocial behavior, impaired empathy and remorse, and bold and disinhibited and egotistical traits. But they also they can fake being very, very charming. They can fake all the emotions they can't feel because they know that's what they need to do to fit in and get people not to see what's actually inside them, and they will manipulate everything and everyone around them to their own ends. It's really, really, thank God there's not very many of them, or the ones that aren't, they're not all the, serial killers and things like that. That there's probably plenty of psychopaths out there that are just out there, faking it to make it.
And there's varying degrees.
More or less, psychopaths are actually a lot more numerous than one would believe, but these are just people that they find out they're diagnosed with this, and they're afraid of being found out and being labeled as monsters, so they do their best to blend in, and they just want to live a normal life. And those are the ones that usually don't aspire to being like CEO executives and things like that, which is where you find a lot of them.
Yeah, there's something I've actually heard that a lot about CEO, heads of major companies. I mean, I don't think
even doctors.
Yeah, doctors, that there's definitely a certain aspect to that, And like I said, I don't think Bill Gates and those guys, but those guys clearly are also they're not average either. They're far from average. The Bill Gates and the Steve Jobs and the Zuckerbergs and things. Look, I mean, come on, Zuckerberg. I mean, did you see that hearing?
Most psychopaths are drawn to positions of power where they can control or completely manipulate a person or people's lives and have almost complete autonomy.
Yeah. Yeah, and then with the sociopath, it's basically they say it's a less severe form. They, like, for example, they said that the sociopath can form some bonds like family, as a psychopath does typically not. But so a sociopath might not feel anything for hurting a stranger, but if they do hurt someone they like, then they still feel things for that. But it's not. And again, this is broad generalizations, and Wakichota, feel free to expound on that if there's any of that that's inaccurate.
Well, sociopaths also take pleasure in hurting small animals too.
Yes, they can. Yeah. Which, not good.
I wanted to read what Unifae commented in the chat.
Okay.
The suck part of that is that the woman with autism also mimics emotions, at least for a while, until we learn what's appropriate for us to fit in.
Yes, that's
If that
different.
makes
That's
sense.
not
Makes
the
sense.
same thing.
Yeah.
Because
Remember what I said initially. A lot of us have traits of almost everything in our diagnostic statistical manual of mental disorders. That does not mean we meet criteria or have that.
Right.
While some disorders share similarities and share similar traits, you won't ever find a psychopath in treatment unless they're involuntarily there.
Unless they've been busted, basically.
Yeah.
So it's varying degrees of the disorder that they, each person has a varying degree.
That's one way of looking at it.
Yeah, and by all means, don't take anything in here as like this is a diagnosis. Even with Wakichota on here, this, as he said, takes months to diagnose yourself. That just because you have, I could probably, every single one of us here probably have some trait on, narcissism. I'm not really big on social outings or being around people, even family at times. OCD, schizophrenia. I have I'm bipolar. I have highs and lows and things like you said, like he was saying, you could probably find something in yourself in every single one of these, but it's consistency in diagnosis that really makes that. So don't go WebMDing yourself after this episode and being like, holy crap.
WebMD is going to tell you have throat cancer.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
According to this, Kishmas is going to have like ovarian cysts because of how many of these he's got.
Oh.
That's why he has that fur on his face.
That's why he's got that furry face. Yeah, it comes from his ovarian cysts.
I will say though, we can claim that we are an RP show that actually now has a call-in psych tech.
That's true. Yeah.
There we go.
Take that, other podcasts. What have you got? I mean, listeners. But other than that,
don't worry, I'm certified.
That's right. Certified for what?
Yes.
That's a wide range of things.
Well, I think we've probably...
I've actually got a lot of different certifications, and I'm allowed to do a lot of things in my scope of practice. But there are some things that Jazz can do that I cannot.
Like have babies.
I mean...
No, she can't anymore. Thank you very much.
I don't know.
But she has.
The president's got that super sperm.
Nope. Nope.
Oh, that's some creepy anime shit right there. But
we're not going to delve into Arnold Schwarzenegger's movie Junior, are we?
Yeah.
No.
Get to the chopper.
He's not a tumor.
Leave Kishmas alone, bro.
It's not a tumor.
But all right, so I think we'll probably start wrapping this up. It's already crazy long. I do want to give you, if you've got any last things to say, Wakichota, by the way, and I do very much appreciate you calling in and helping us get some actual
waddle through this
professional information out there.
I'm willing to help whenever I can.
Yeah. Do you have any final things you want to make sure you got everything cleared out or anything like that?
If you have any questions, concerns, curiosities, you're more welcome to hit me up, or please see your doctor.
Yeah. And if you have questions,
but you're my doctor now.
And if you're not building a good relationship with a certain provider, it is your explicit patient right to switch providers. You don't even need a good excuse. You can just say the person smells bad. It's your patient right to find the best patient care that you can.
See,
he's also the best little brother there ever was. Just saying.
No. But so is it? If his name on our Discord is Cabilis, Cabilis. So is it you're cool with if anybody felt like they needed to reach out to you that you just give them a quick chat?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I appreciate you offering that.
Yeah, thank you.
We're here to try to have fun and role play and also help people. I mean, it's somewhere in there. There's entertainment.
Don't just stop with a second opinion. Get as many as you want.
Yeah.
Yep. Until you're happy with what they're saying and you feel that they're listening to you.
Yeah, just don't let them label you with one thing.
You'd be surprised how many people think that they can't do that, and I have to wave my arms and yell to get people to listen to that part.
The reason they think that is because that's what it's like the insurance with car repair. you know, your insurance company gives you a list of preferred repair mechanics. Yeah, guess what? You don't have to follow that. It's your right to take it to wherever the fuck you want.
And the insurance companies, particularly in Iowa, are particularly awful about this.
Yeah, they're mad about it everywhere.
They will outright lie to the elderly people that I see. So it's really important to ask questions, to talk to people, and not just listen to your
rights.
Insurance. Know your rights and get out there and get answers. Don't just listen to one doctor say, oh, you're fine. You must have had a bad day.
And if you really feel the medication isn't working for you, here's a great example. I recently took care of a bipolar manic patient, and we found out that his ammonia levels were going through the roof. I mean, I think they were like pushing 90 and higher. And the doctors kept wanting to give him Ativan, and I was like, don't do that. It's going to supercharge him. You're pretty much going to give Barry Allen the Hulk the same powers. It's insane. Don't do it. And this guy was built like a skinny Dwayne Johnson. And what did they give him? They gave him 2 milligrams of Ativan, and the guy was supercharged. And he was almost tearing the walls and doors apart.
Wow.
So if you feel that medication is not working for you, please ask them to draw some labs. Tell them to do a rainbow panel. Tell them to look at it again, because there might be something out there that's better for you and probably less harmful to your health later on in life.
It's really important to...
example.
Oh, go ahead.
With the medication, mine's not as good as Wakichota's, but I am insulin resistant. So it took them forever to actually find an insulin that would actually bring my blood sugar down.
That was why we struggled with for 2 or 3 years, and she would do great. She would do fantastic for about a month, month and a half, and she would take the same dose, and then she started crashing.
It wouldn't
her blood sugar would crash to the 40s and stuff like that.
So they finally got it under control, but I can't even tell you how many doctors I saw until I finally found one that she's wonderful. She figured out what the problem was, that I was insulin resistant. So she got me on the insulin that works now. And so I feel wonderful most of the time. Now I just have to worry about allergies. But yeah, I do agree. You've got to find the person that will listen to you and actually work with you and try things,
Instead of just blanketing you with something and to move you on.
Yeah.
Yeah, just slapping a sticker on you and going, here you go.
Yeah. I mean, and I have diagnosed myself now 4 times with different things. As you remember, I was saying. What?
It's a trap.
Yeah.
I love it.
But, I was having seizures and sleeping my life away for 2 years. And
goodness.
Yeah.
I was there for those 2 years.
Yeah. You guys were so wonderful and supportive while I was just trying to figure out why I couldn't stay awake. And that it turned out to
you
be
were
of all things. Gluten allergy.
Whatever.
It's a good thing Deadpool gathered all that gluten and shot it out into space for us.
Yeah.
She helped me enable my night allergy
and shot it into space where it will never not hurt us again.
And I couldn't get a doctor to listen to me out here. They wouldn't listen. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. And I talked to a doctor out in California that had posted something interesting, and I wanted to know what he meant, and he explained how it can cause seizures, and he described my problem exactly. So I went to my doctor, and I wanted to know if she could test me. She said, you can't test for something like that, which, of course, you could, but she didn't know that. And so after about 6 months, I finally just decided, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to stop eating it. We'll see if that's the problem. And as Ashen can, seizures vanished.
So what is it? The celiac?
Celiac, yeah. I have a extremely resistant form of it that's probably heading towards Crohn's, that they're trying. But I still can't get a doctor. I talk to doctors in other states because I don't have my insurance won't pay for me to have it go to biopsy. I don't have the money for it. So we're still shooting in the dark. There could be something else really wrong with me, and there's no way for them to know.
I have a list.
Yes, I know, dear. But I have gone off. I'm on this, what's called the autoimmune protocol, and I finally got better.
Yeah.
So, Ashen, just to set the record straight about you had this guy in your pocket the whole time. You dealt with it for so many years. Do you remember those, 2 months I would disappear out of game completely?
Mm-hmm. Was that you?
That was me and Cab was playing large copious amounts of Halo and Morrowind. Just saying.
Yeah, no, that was largely
Halo!
tongue-in-cheek, but at the same time,
I know.
I'm just saying your little brother seems a lot smarter than you.
He also was a boot for a while. And I didn't have him around. So yeah, frack you too, buddy.
That's because I made my too much. People start asking me questions.
Yeah.
But my point is that I was trying to make before these two men got involved.
Well, make your point.
Was that sometimes you do have to challenge your doctor.
Yes,
And you do have to bring them new information and say, what about this? What about this? And when they compared my blood test with the blood test that they went and did research on, she came back and said, you know what? This is probably what's wrong. Let's try it. And we did it, and it worked, and my seizures vanished, and I went off my seizure medication, and everything kind of happened, and then I got knocked up. Long story. But point being that my body started fixing itself.
TMI.
And now I'm on I lost 60 pounds, and I have my life back.
Right.
But that was 10 years because I was listening to my doctor instead of myself. So do question. But I didn't say I know everything. I went and I looked for another doctor.
Right, and that is one thing I will, like we said earlier, science, regardless of what the catchphrase is, science isn't settled on anything. And a doctor is only a human being, and a human being could only know so much. And
I'm going to piggyback off of that in a military way. Jazz is right. Ashton, you're right. Doctors are people. They don't always look through every single one of your blood panels. You got to ask them these questions. You got to challenge them, because if you go to your appointment, you don't ask your doctor anything. Not only is a good doctor happy when you ask questions, but if you don't ask them questions, they're going to assume if they never see you again, everything's resolved, you're fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always ask them those specific questions. Ask them to tell you about every single thing in one of their labs, even if it's redundant, because if they get in that habit, they can find something and help you out earlier on instead of, Jazz's case where,
Yeah, and you never know.
But it took me just completely, just parked myself in her office, and I said, I'm not leaving until somebody tells me what the hell is wrong with me.
Yeah, and you never know if there's some new, like I said, there are only people, and that's exactly right too, but the medical, just the scientific field, medical and everything like that is advancing, advancing exponentially, just like computer software. Yes. Think of that in terms of medical upgrades and things that can be done and understood. One person can't know that all. And yes, maybe they can search for stuff, but they also have hundreds of patients, So if you come across something, it doesn't hurt to ask, And it could be they're like, oh yeah, I'm aware of that. It's complete bullshit,
Yes,
all right,
and I've had my doctor tell me that. But at least you try. At least you go in and say, well, what about this?
The worst that happens is you look like a bit of a dope. But,
No, here's a trick. Now, I'm not saying use this in the emergency room or in the darkness. If you know something's really wrong with you, you can kind of slide in that I'm having trouble breathing at the ER, and you'll get pushed to the front of the line. With your doctor, if you approach it in a subservient way to where it makes them feel that they can teach you, it makes them feel good that they can teach somebody, and, it strokes their ego, and you get the information you want.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Well, that's good advice all around.
Good advice.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, let's go ahead and close this thing down. Wakichota, I seriously, man,
awesome.
I am really glad you called in. Strafae, glad you mentioned that. Trust me, if I had known that, I'd have booked you in advance. But
he's good Trandoshan. He scratches around
right.
Just so.
Hunter is very right.
That's right. But no, seriously, Wakichota, appreciate all your knowledge and your information. Sorry about your brother. You don't get to pick your family, but
I take no offense to that. We had the other one, which is the really dubious one. Just saying.
He's our boomhauer.
He's our boomhauer. I love it.
That's great.
So, all right, guys. Again, Wakichota, thank you for calling in, man. Appreciate all your information, all your knowledge, and I think you actually you helped this show go over probably almost an hour over it should have been, because your information was fantastic. No, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. It was well worth it. I'm honestly glad that you had called in, and I'm very, very thankful for your knowledge, and hopefully, it helps people play interesting characters and maybe, help somebody get the help they need.
That's just
I heard that dubious
clapping.
That wasn't
was
dubious.
clapping.
I was clapping. Just because it didn't sound like fapping doesn't mean that I'm not clapping.
Hey, no self-petting.
Oh no.
That's the devil's way. We don't do that around these parts. So, all right.
Don't make
Thank
that
you again,
noise.
Wakichota. You have a good night, brother.
Bye.
Right.
All right. So I think everybody good on this episode tonight.
Yep.
I
hope so.
Went
We're
over
like
a little
an
long,
hour over.
but right. I am really glad. Sib, good show idea.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Try not to do
awesome.
it again, so we're not here for 3 hours.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Nothing
My
like
kids
a
are all
song with
like,
little brother.
Are you still doing that?
I bet
Yes,
they
I
are.
am.
Yeah.
Yeah, ours just came down and asked the same thing.
Yeah. So
5 minutes ago.
I will say, definitely appreciate everybody listening. Remember, next week is our big 50th episode, so I'm going to ask if you're able to tell guild people. If you've not told anybody about us, please reach out to other role players. If you know your friends and things like that, your guild, make a page, post it up. If you've got a local RP community site, I don't want to do it ourselves because it's always self-serving, but if other people do it, we really do appreciate it, and it helps get the word out. And we really want to do some more stuff like this one tonight. Next week episode is going to be Why You Don't Talk Politics, and we're going to start our own political runs for office, and it should be kind of fun. It might make having to talk politics a little less mind-numbingly awful. And don't worry, no, we're not going to actually be talking politics in latest, but more about the way politics can destroy and ruin a guild or conversations, and why that is, and
I can't wait.
how to help people with that. So I know,
It's gonna be fun.
but it's going to be our big 50th episode. Every single one of us has got a lot of work to do. So go ahead, kick this pig. I do want to thank, once again, everybody for listening live over at twitch.tv/RPMMORadio. Big, gigantic, fucking huge thanks to Wakichota. Seriously, man, I'm really, really glad that you called in. I really, really am. I appreciate it. So with that, from everybody here at RPMMORadio, I'm Ashton Phoenix. I want to thank my crew, Jazz, Kishma, Sib, Strafae, Wakichota once again, and our 2 call screeners, Rahanar and Yunfei. Thank you very much for everybody did. Sorry I took you on for an extra hour.
Later.
folks.
So
Night.
thank you all for listening, and with that, tune in next time when we analyze halflings and have them sent to Arkham. Next time on RPMMORadio. Good night, everybody. The thoughts and opinions of those on RPM Radio and her crew are just that, and should not be taken as the gospel truth, but pretty close to it. Music, as always, is provided by Husky by the Geek. Visit him at youtube.com/HuskyByTheGeek to hear all his great video game rock covers and original music. Also, if you'd like, hit him up at patreon.com/HuskyByTheGeek because his music is worth every cent.